Okay, hopefully this is sorted now. Okay, hopefully this is sorted now. There we go. Sweet. We'll just give this a bit of time, guys. It's probably going to take a little bit for everyone to jump on. All right, hopefully that's all sorted. You guys should be able to hear me now. I've been playing around with the. Oh. I've been playing around with a bit of this stuff. I've been flat out this week, getting a lot of stuff prepared for America from some stuff we're doing for the NBA in the coming weeks, as well as getting some stuff ready for the NFL season and doing some collabs over there in the States and planning some trips over there. So, being flat out. So it's good to talk a little bit of footy again. Obviously, we're pretty flat out through sort of Thursday through Sunday with the footy. So, won't have probably too much time tonight, guys, as you can imagine with the time difference. Sort of sleeping at times during the days and then up at night. So we'll give it a little bit, guys. Jump on, fire away with some questions. We'll get stuck straight into it as quick as we can because I've probably only got about 20 minutes. Hopefully it should be nice and easy tonight, guys. It probably shouldn't be too many people jumping on. Like I said, I've only just sort of put this out recently. We did give everyone in our group sort of the heads up that I wanted to sort of jump on and go through some of those things. Obviously, it gets very tricky. A lot of guys might be like working on a Saturday or you're playing footy or something. So when you have weekends like we did where it's sort of really crucial on timing and being able to cash out at certain times and stuff, it can be very, very tricky. So the idea is this is why I give up, so many hours throughout the week and do these lives to be able to give you guys the chance to ask these questions. We can have these discussions. That way, when the weekend comes around, everybody's already across all this stuff and it becomes a lot easier. Because as you can imagine, when we're all trying to make live decisions within like split seconds, for me to be able to post that and then for people to be able to see it and then for other people to be able to see it and for hundreds of people to be able to see it all at the same time, try and synchronize everything, it is borderline impossible. So that's what I kind of wanted to focus on tonight, and then obviously throwing some stuff up here behind us as we always do. It's going to be a really good game. It's just, it was probably some of the best players that have been super consistent all year. Were sort of the ones I imagine that probably killed a lot of people with, guys like Tanner Bruin. Sort of, I think, what did he break his nose and then spend about half an hour on the bench, and guys like Dan Houston, whose role seemed to change a little bit with Howe and Moore coming back in the team, and then I think it was Wilmot as well, had his worst game of the season as well. All these guys pretty much had their worst game of the season by far, so it sort of happens. But like I said to some of our guys, to be in a position where you should really be winning them, this is how you can get some profit at 3/4 time. So it's not always the worst thing when things aren't going right. If you've done 95% of your picks right and everything's on track, this is how you can cash out early, take a little bit of profit, and keep yourself rolling. Just as we were able to do very effectively. And then sort of kept rolling that over, being really strategic, and then come out and had another really big Sunday, which was really good. Absolutely not, bro. Hence why, like I said, I'm really trying to put in more and more of an effort to make this very clear. As you can see right above my head where it says these are not picks. This is for content purposes only. So absolutely not. If anyone's advising you to throw in 6 different goal kickers and 10 disposals and the results, you're probably going to win 1 in every 100 you do, maybe even if you're lucky, you know what I mean? So, absolutely not, bro. And that's exactly why we sort of put that warning there, just to make sure there is no confusions. Because like I said, we do a lot of these lives. I haven't even picked anything myself yet. We'll be going through that probably early in the morning. I'll go through that. touch on a couple of things that I still want to tick off, and then we'll probably make our decision sort of mid-morning or ready for lunchtime. So, um, yeah, and that's why I wanted to sort of do that over on YouTube tonight as well, just so we can have a bit more of an in-depth discussion around some of that stuff, because we are very limited on the lives that we normally do, and sometimes people's questions don't fully come through, and it gets really hard. So, but yeah, definitely not, man, definitely not. But the idea is when people leave these lives, we can sort of sit here. So I'll just sort of share some of my thoughts and try and work my way from whether that's from like 10 right up to say 25, and then some goal kickers, and maybe discuss which ones we think are maybe there for some value, which ones we really like for certain reasons, whether it's a matchup thing. This is really just to give us some talking points, and then you guys can throw some ideas at me. We can sit here and discuss it. And this is how we can normally have lives for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours at a time we've done. So by basically having these up there as suggestions, and then we can sit here and discuss through these, like I said, whether it's potential matchups or tags or what roles specific players are playing. Like I said, that was probably one of the craziest weekends I've seen for a while. I mean, it's not too unexpected to see stuff like that early on in the season, but there was multiple games, like we said. I think Caleb Daniel was a really good one. He started at half forward for like the first half, and the next minute he's in the back line again, taking the kick-ins. Nazaya keeps getting tagged and playing at full forward and taking the kick-ins, and then he's in the midfield. It looks like some teams have really bought the taggers back as well. I mean, we pretty much cashed out straight away. I sort of kicked myself for that. I never normally take merit or some of these really good players for that reason. And then, yeah, sort of he got tagged straight away. They'd sent someone to LDU to start the game as well. Caleb Daniel was starting at half forward. And within about 2 minutes of the game, I was like, wow, what is going on here? The magnets had just been thrown all over the place. So it was just kind of really one of those rounds. And I think what we probably saw a lot more that round as well. We've seen it from different teams, but I think consistently now, a lot of teams are really starting to be very strategic with this extra bench player. I thought some teams might have really simplified it in terms of maybe just playing an extra big on the bench or something like that. But you'll see even some of the best players, they're now sitting there for 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes plus in a quarter. So they're pretty much only playing half quarters sometimes. So this is why we could see guys going from like having 1 or 2 disposals in the first quarter, and then having like 8, and then he might have 2, and then he might come home and have 12, like we sort of saw with Caleb Sarong or some of these guys as well. So, yeah, it was just kind of one of those rounds where I think a lot of that stuff come to a head, and we sort of got a glimpse at it in multiple games. Like I said, whether that was sort of guys or them really bringing the tag back. Coaches still playing around, probably working out where players are best suited. Like I said, North Melbourne's a great example of that, with Luke Parker going back, and then you got McKercher coming in, and then Caleb Daniel. They're still sort of shifting those magnets around, and then George Wardlaw coming as well, which I think had a bit to do with it. There was like an extra rotation now through the midfield, so we didn't know how that was going to affect sort of Tom Powell and Simpkins. Some of these guys I probably would have loved to take. So like I said to a lot of the guys in our group, it was really good to probably go through a round like that. Especially when things just aren't really going well, and then you can just stick to a system, and then knowing that you just keep backing yourself in, and when that next winner comes, you're going to be in a really good position to offset that and get yourself back in front, exactly like we did on Sunday. So, but as I've also said to the guys too, there can be a very fine line in this industry. I make decisions for myself based on sort of where we're at. I mean, I've been doing this for years and years now, which ties into part of it. But like I said, we're already over 64 units plus in the first few weeks of the footy season. So if you've got that in the bank and you say you fall behind, this allows you that flexibility. So you're never really chasing your losses, which is a place you don't want to get to. But even if you fall behind for this round, like I said to a few of the guys, even if I was to take the risks that I sort of did in the end, and even if I was to lose 10 or 15 units over the weekend, that just would have pulled me back to still probably 45 or whatever plus units, or 47, whatever, for the season, you know what I mean? So you're never really chasing losses when you've already banked a huge amount of winners. You're simply just leveraging the profit that you've already created for yourself by doing all the hard work for the first month. So like I try and stress to guys as well, and why I enjoy doing these lives and having these conversations, is exactly for that. Because unfortunately, if you got bad timing, or you sat there for 3 weeks or 4 weeks with the preseason and watched us dominate, and then you finally made the decision to come and join us, and you just might have timed it really bad on a really tough week. That's kind of life. There's not much you can do about that, and you got to sort of understand that. And what I try and encourage guys too is, yes, I share my advice with what I'm doing, but you've also got to remember, like I said, if it's your first day or your first round, you haven't banked 60 plus units, so you've really got to apply this information to your own sort of situation, and maybe just say, hey, look, this is my first week in. I'm probably not at the level that these other guys are at. Let me just have a little bit of a play around this weekend until I get familiar with the system and how it all works. So whatever Brett does, maybe I'll sort of half of that, because I'm coming from a step behind or something like that. So this is the stuff that I ideally want to talk about on these lives, which I think is super, super, super important. But like I said, it can get a little bit tricky over on TikTok, because it would be seen as sort of giving financial advice, especially in a space like this where it's just really not allowed. So that was sort of the real sole purpose. Like I said, I've been crazy busy this week, which has kind of been exciting. All the stuff we're getting set up for the NBA and some partnerships, and like I said, some of the American sport and the collabs, the NFL that's coming out to Australia, some NFL that I'm going to in America. So, but I did want to just jump on here quickly tonight and go over that. So please fire away, guys, with any questions, because I've probably only got about 20 minutes. So I can see at least there's enough of us on here now, half a dozen of you guys or whatever. So that's kind of what I was hoping for. I mean, it's great when we get hundreds of people that come through, that ends up being 2, 3, 5 to 8,000 people on those lives. But tonight was really about people that wanted to be here to have these discussions. I really wanted to try and have this conversation with people, because it's just going to make it easier on the weekends. And I think this stuff is the really important stuff. Like I talk about a lot, it really is a mindset. We've all made good picks before. People can make bad picks, whatever it is. The things that separate people in this space is all these little things that I just spoke about, and we sort of saw firsthand over the weekend, and how you can navigate your way through these, and riding out those sort of waves as well. When you can have a terrible round that just could have been, horrific, or you can just sit there throughout and stay calm, make some key decisions at the right times. Like I said, the fact that we were in 3 winning positions on the games that we had to cash out on, it's just a really good sign, that as we see, like I said, whether it's guys getting stuck on the bench or injury or some of these crazy things that are probably going to happen more so this year than we've seen with the extra bench rotation, it might be crucial between people winning and losing on a weekly basis. So, and like I said, it was just a bit of a reminder for the guys. I try and update it as much as I can and stuff as well. But we all know with the cash out too, by the time I sort of make the decision, I click my cash out, I go back, I type it in the group, I post it. Everyone has to get the message. They have to open the phone. They have to see it. By the time they open the phone, it's already tanked. Like it's already changed twice, So what we're trying to do is get in this system of just reminding people at 3/4 time every game. Hey guys, even if you are busy, I would suggest setting alarm on your phone or something. If you're going to miss the game, simply set a reminder. Check in each game at 3/4 time and just make a decision. Oh, cool. Where do I sit? It's looking pretty good from here. Oh, I could actually take 2 units profit. That'll be nice. Let me just bank that, because I'm actually going to miss the end of the game. So if you're going to miss maybe a crucial part of the game and you've got some profit sitting there, just take it and say, okay, well, I'll be sitting down all of Sunday watching the game. I'll roll that money over and do something productive with it on the Sunday. Like I said, this is stuff we really cannot do for people. You can only hold people's hands through so much of this, and sort of put the advice there, have these discussions for hours and hours and hours on end every single week. And then it then becomes up to the individual to start learning some of this stuff as well. So, Flynn, what's the reason you're so confident in the Lions? I don't think Collingwood have been too bad. I would agree with you, bro. It is definitely nothing to do with Collingwood being bad. And as you'll see, I've put up 2 reasons actually there, which I'll go into as well. But if people ask me who do you think is going to win this game, I would say Brisbane. I still think they're a far better team at the Gabba. Very hard to lose there. So if I was to maybe have the result in, and the idea would be you might maybe mix the result in with a couple of these, so you don't have to end up with a 6, 7, 8, 9 leg multi. You might decide, oh, cool, I like Brisbane with a little bit of a head start. Maybe I like Logan Morris as maybe the obvious one to kick a goal, with Darcy Moore out as well. And then you maybe have 2 or 3 disposal winners or something like that. So this is why we have these discussions and do the live the way we are. But in saying that too, bro, like I said, Darcy Moore is out. It is Brisbane, the best team in the AFL. They have been for years now. At their home ground, which is probably one of the toughest road trips in football. But just, you might have got a little bit confused by that too, which sometimes people do. That anytime there's a plus there, that means what I'm doing is giving Brisbane a head start just in case there is an upset. So I'm definitely not like so sold on it that I would just maybe take Brisbane head to head. What I would recommend is, like I said, if you think Brisbane's going to win, we've done this really effectively with lots of games now. We did it again on the Melbourne-Carlton game. You know, we're able to give Melbourne like a 30 point head start or whatever, and they end up winning by 23 points. But it's a good way to get, if you can get $1.20, $1.30 or something like that to start, all of a sudden, this is how you can see some of these other ones. You might only get like $1.05 to sort of $1.12 on some of these, but by the time you stack 3 disposal winners together, maybe you got 1 goal kicker, and then you've got that extra $1.20 or $1.30 start. This is how you're going to like double your money really easily. Like, you know, you can find maybe the best, most consistent 3 disposal winners, and like I said, maybe 1 goal kicker, and then you can leverage that little bit of extra value out of the result. You know, tick over that sort of $2 mark where you might trigger the features as well, just to give yourself a little bit of a cover. If you do miss, you'll at least get a little bit of money back in bonus bets and these sorts of things. So this is something we've been sort of trying to show guys as well. You don't want to, I'm very big on never like trying to chase odds for the sake of it. But if you can sort of get to at least that $2 threshold, just to trigger those bonus features, as we see, it can be very handy sometimes when Sunday comes around and you're sitting on a couple of bonus features, and then you end up flipping them, and you're like, oh well, I thought I lost the other day, but I've actually flipped them now and turned it back into some profit. So, yeah, hopefully that makes sense, man. But definitely not overly confident, but it's pretty hard to pick against Brisbane, even at the Gabba. And we saw probably the Western Bulldogs game to start was a great example of that. Even if you thought Brisbane probably win, you just give them a 3 or 4 goal head start or something like that, just in case, as a bit of a safety net. So, who's in Lions defense? That's probably a good one, man. We can probably, I should pull it up on here actually, because I think the teams had come out. I was sort of busy and hadn't actually seen, but that's a good point. They're missing a lot of keys, but why I sort of like this matchup for them as well. I mean, you think there's no Myercheck and Mason Cox this year as well, so I don't think they've really got the damaging tall forwards that's probably going to worry Brisbane's defense. Sort of a bit like we saw with St Kilda last week. You know, I don't think Brisbane were too stretched without Harris Andrews and some of these guys, because the Saints just really didn't have the tall forwards to worry him. Let me pull that up here, and we can actually. So they've got Joyce in at fullback. Leicester's still playing, who is really good. And then they've got a lot of halfback flankers. I'm sure they've got another key position. So they've bought Tunstall in as well. And then they got that Zach Steltsky, and Brain also named as emergencies just in case. So, but yeah, like I said, probably barring McStay. Have they gone with the 2 ruckman again? Collingwood, they have. So that's something to watch as well. Where have they started? I'm just looking where they started, Cameron. Or is he out? Oh, no. Oh, and Pendles is out too. So, yeah, McLuggage is out. I think he was maybe touch and go. I think so. Maybe next week it sounds like him. But yeah, Gardner's the one that's out, and Answorth as well. And then obviously Harris Andrews. So some big key outs. But like I said, I don't think Collingwood's got the forward line that's really going to stress them too much, to be honest. So Ty Gallup was really good in defence. Yeah, I didn't watch him too closely. Was he the one they threw back? Was he? I didn't really watch too much of that game. Yeah, like I said, I mean, they've definitely got the team there, Brisbane. So, Thoughts on Kitty Coleman? Yeah, well, he's one I really watched. Because that was one of the ones where I mean we're in a really good position to cash out, which was a good thing for us again. But Wilmot, that was him. I mean, you go look at his numbers too. I mean, he's closer to getting 25 every week. And I think he was. You couldn't even get him at 15. The shortest price one you could get him at was 16. That's how good a form he's been in. And Kitty Coleman was the one, just like I said with Caleb Daniels. So, like I said, rather than sort of kicking and screaming and feeling hard done by, it's if you miss by one or someone lets you down, it's really looking at it in depth and trying to find the reasons why so you can maybe avoid it next time. And that was definitely one of them. Again, Kitty Coleman started at half forward. So you're like, okay, cool. Then they threw him to half back and he just started taking all the kick ins. Wilmot sort of got shoved really deep and just played a bit more of a lockdown role with Kitty Coleman and they decided to free him up. So, um, it's a real tricky one again. I mean, where's he going to start? Where's he going to play? Looking at that team, I mean, there's only so many distributors you can have in that back line. I mean, you're looking at, they got Coleman, Wilmot, Fletcher, and Zorko. They're all almost identical players, which is great. That's where they obviously set a lot of their victories up, coming off that half back line. But yeah, it's an interesting mix because it really wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I think it was Leicester. We saw Leicester have 20 disposals. When does Leicester ever have more than Darcy Wilmot and be more damaging than Darcy Wilmot, you know? So it was quite strange to see. And it wouldn't surprise me if he frees up and comes out and has nearly 25 this week. You know, that's kind of the nature of it. But I think we're probably going to see that a little bit now with Coleman, Wilmot, Fletcher, and Zorko. Last year, you could just bank on Wilmot, Fletcher, and Zorko just to rack it up every single week super consistently. But this year, it looks like their roles are going to change from time to time. So that's just something I definitely watched very closely last week, and it's just a little bit of a watch, which is why I think I've thrown Fletcher in there as a potential one. But again, that would just be a little bit of a warning on there. I wouldn't be too surprised. We probably don't know which one it's going to be, but whether it's Fletcher, Wilmot, Coleman, or Zorko, I think you're going to see some really inconsistent results from them guys depending on the matchup each week and the role that they might play. I mean, he might start half forward again. We just don't know, which I don't love. Yeah, he played defense that game. Yeah, that's a good pickup, man. I didn't really watch it too closely, to be honest. I was watching a little bit before, just going back over it, but that was a bit more around the forwards too, just where sort of Oscar Allen was starting and how that was working with Logan Morris and who was playing deeper and closer to goals, just as I was looking at some of the goal kickers. They've got him on the bench. That's why I couldn't see him. But it's exactly why I've sort of thrown, I'm backwards on this one. Darcy Cameron up there just to discuss. Like I said, I think that was at almost $2 alone. I think someone asked, or it might have been when we come on before, they've had that really good, what they call like the pull-em promo, where you get to basically throw in, you accumulate that up to $4 odds. This is on PointsBet. And then it allows you the luxury to pull someone out at half time. That's why I've thrown that up there. That could be a good one. Look, he's essentially going to be more of a forward ruck now with Steen in, who looks really, really good at centre bounce. Cameron's obviously a far better player across the ground, but obviously when you let go of Mason Cox and Myercheck, maybe they had the idea of playing Darcy Cameron as a bit more of a forward. So, look, if he's going to be spending more time as a forward, Brisbane's got no Harris Andrews. You know, like we said, they got some of their key defenders out. You know, maybe he pops up and kicks an early goal. So that might be one where you can maybe throw that in your pull-em promo. And like I said, let it ride for the first half. Maybe you get a bit lucky and he snags a goal and you're thinking, how good is that? Or worst case, gets to half time, he hasn't kicked one yet, and then he's the one that you pull out and then you can let everything else ride. Because the idea would be, if you throw someone paying almost $2 like that to start it, you probably only got to find maybe a couple of these other disposal winners there and make it still nice and safe and just give yourself the leverage too. So um last week the Collingwood GWS game, yes. Let me get to this one. Yeah, I see Cameron scoring a goal. Yeah, I think it's not a bad look. Hey, I really don't love goal kickers as a whole. I think it can be like a lucky dip at times. Like you might see the full forward have 4 shots and miss all of them, and then you'll see two of the back flankers and the wingers and the ruckman all kick a goal just out of nowhere. That's kind of the nature that comes with goal kickers. But I think it could be a great way to leverage that pull 'em promo. I'm gonna tinker around with some stuff too. Like I said, it couldn't have gone any easier or smoother for a month straight. We've literally, as you guys can see the results here, on this side, round by round, it really couldn't have gone any easier. And we've actually done the exact same thing almost every single week in terms of having a main slip offsetting with the promos. We really had the same game plan for every single week of those, and you guys can just see sometimes how the results fluctuate just based on, like we said, some players just having statistically their worst outing for sort of no real reason apart from whether their coach changed the role or some of these sort of little things. So yeah, I think I'll be tinkering with that a little bit this week. What I want to try and do is maybe find some over unders that we really like, because like I said, I was big on that. I think it was the Adelaide game where we did the live. I was really big on ranking going unders on his against Geelong. I just thought they'd take him out of the game. So I think certain games, we've seen it with Sarong at times as well when he's being tagged. I think that could be a good way to throw in an over under, like we said, at $1.90 or $2 or whatever you get that at. And then that is maybe the risky leg. They might have a terrible first half and you got them on the unders. So you're like, all right, cool, I'm going to let this ride. Or it might be vice versa. You might have them on the unders and they come out and have 15 at half time. And then you're like, okay, cool, well, let me pull this one out. So that's just something I'm going to tinker with a little bit this week with the pull on promos. Rather than having to have like so many legs in them, I would love to be able to take a bit of a punt on an over or an under. Or like we said, maybe a Darcy Cameron for goal at like $2 or something like that. So um, um, I hit a 140x. Love that, bro. Nice one. I can't believe it's round 4 already. It's kind of crazy, isn't it? Even the fact that it was preseason, and then you think we had the what was it, the State of Origin game as well. Yeah, it is, man. It's kind of crazy. That's why I'm sort of onto it today. Like I said, I've spent probably the last sort of 3 days probably more sleeping during the day and then working through the night because of the time difference with all the stuff I'm setting up for America for the sports season for that. So yeah, it's kind of crazy to think that we're already sort of planning that, and that's not till the end of AFL season, but it's sort of going through that quickly. So yeah, like I said, for us, couldn't really be happier with where we're sitting, and I actually sort of love the fact that we experienced one of these rounds very, very, very early. Because like a few guys have said to me, probably in days past, it could have been an absolute disaster in rounds like this. But just the fact for them to see that if you've got a system that you believe in, that you've been doing time and time again, year after year after year, and being sort of able to come out in front in these really tough rounds, and like I said, really being able to leverage the results that we had, as you guys can see from the preseason through to round 2. This is how you can make some of these decisions and take some of these slight risks. And like I said, if I hadn't have hit those crucial games on the Sunday, which we did in the end anyway, I just had so much confidence that things couldn't keep going the way they were. We were sort of tinkering with things along the way. We just knew that we just needed that little bit of luck to turn for us and get that game under our belt. And if we were managing our money correctly, just like I did, we had a plan for that game. We had to end up taking a cash out leading into it. And then I simply had a decision. Okay, I'm probably, either going to fall X amount of units short and have to suffer a loss this week, or I can now double down on these picks that we've outlaid. And simply all I need to do then is hit these picks and we're going to come out in front, and it's going to be a successful week overall. And like I said, this can be a very fine line if it's like your first week and you sort of feel like you're chasing losses. That's because basically you're starting from zero and you would essentially be chasing your losses. You're not really chasing losses when you've already banked 64 units. It just means, you might drop back down to 50 instead of 60. So, like I said, there was so many lessons this week of what I really wanted to discuss on here. Because it's obviously super, super important. Sorry guys, let me, who's getting tagged tomorrow? Let me try and whip through these, building up a little bit. Oh, I don't know if anyone, bro. I mean, Nick Dacos is the obvious one. He's kind of one of those ones I just always stay away from because you know he's going to get tagged, but he just still dominates. So I mean, he would be the one. Lockie Neal's probably one for Brisbane who still gets the most attention. I was pretty big on staying away from him. That would have been a great one in hindsight that I'm talking about, where we could have taken him probably on the unders, knowing that Garcia was probably going to go to him last week. I don't think anyone really will in this one. I actually watched a little bit of the last time they met, which was the prelim last year, and it was Josh Dunkley that went to Nick Dacos. But he was winning a lot of his own ball around the stoppage as well. It was really just, hey, let someone be accountable for him and not let him get all those easy touches. He's going to find the ball anyway. Let's just try and limit it to him maybe getting disposals in the half back line rather than across half forward and kicking goals sort of deal. So I would expect it to be a pretty open game, to be honest. Like I said, I'm sure maybe Dunkley goes to Dacos at times. It could be Jared Berry. We've seen do that role last week on Nazire as well. But um, I think in a game like this, Brisbane can just back themselves in, even if Dacos kills it. I think Brisbane is a better team at home. Like I said, Darcy Moore out. No Myercheck and Cameron this year, different side as well. So I think they're probably going to both back themselves in, I would have thought. I feel like Nick Dacos gets hella attention. He does, bro, always. So Josh Dacos can kind of silently. Yeah, look, and it had been the same for Dan Houston as well, and they really freed him up. He was, absolutely dominating. He was taking all the kick-ins. And then, like we said, How and Darcy Moore come back in, and he just had really quiet patches in the game where they just didn't even really look like they wanted the ball in his hands. How they were happy with Howie kicking the ball a bit more. Darcy Moore was taking kicks on himself, so it just changed the whole dynamic. So that's just a real watch and see as well. So, like I said, these are the lessons you got to learn. Just for the first round 0 through to round 2, just Houston ran around and did his own thing, and then all of a sudden you sort of see when two players come back in how quickly that can shift the dynamic. As soon as Kitty Coleman got shifted from half forward to half back, that just ruined Darcy Wilmot's role. So, like I said, that's why you need these rounds and you need to pay close attention to these rounds because you really need to learn from these. And that goes into my thinking now of targeting some players, staying away from them. Is Jared Berry going to be a tagger? Is he not going to be? Does that change his disposals? He actually played more midfield minutes last week, tagging Nazire in the midfield. He went out and had 31 disposals. So even him as a tagger, if he plays more midfield, he actually gets a lot more of the footy. So, yeah, plenty of stuff I'll be looking out for again, especially across that half back line. So, Sam Lawler over should be pretty nice. I like it. Was very overpriced at 10 plus. He was one that jumped out at me too, bro. I think you are 100% spot on with that one, man. For the centre bounces he's getting, correct. The line is set at around 14.5, 15.5. I would be hammering that over, especially with. I think you're onto it, man. And I think with that line of thinking, yeah, you're going to get some really good results, bro. You don't, like I say to a lot of guys, you don't need to go crazy on the research. If you've just got a pretty good handle on footy knowledge, like you said, you know what role the guy's playing, you know how many centre bounces he's getting. It's clearly unders. You've even mentioned Hopper's minutes in there as well. Just like I'm talking about how some of these other players have impact on their minute, whether that's Prestia being coming back, some of these sorts of things. So, yeah, man, I think for sure. um, Um, none of these make any sense. I don't know what these are. All those odds are $1.5 a week. They're actually not. That's not how you spell week either. But they're actually not, bro. I don't know. Like we just actually touched on Brisbane head to heads well over. Darcy Cameron to kick goals actually at $2. I think the minimum on the goal kickers is around about $1.20 normally. And yeah, obviously this is why we do these lives and discuss these, because obviously you wouldn't take individual disposals like that because the value isn't there, and that's why you need to multi them together. But it's also why on every single video we make it, other side, abundantly clear to people that these are not our picks. We haven't even made our picks yet. This is simply for content purposes to create some discussions. And then the idea is we can sit here and have these discussions for hours like we normally do. And then people can go away and make their own decisions based off the conversations we have here. So. Sorry, guys. We always get these spammers on here like that. That's what. Yeah, rhythms. Yeah, exactly, bro. There's yeah, we've seen I think this must have been the actual page. I don't know if you guys saw them, but yeah, there's actually people like that like we said, we can actually put these disclaimers and stuff there, and we can sit here and have these discussions. But yeah, I don't know that you kind of just attract a lot of that, as you guys would know, on social media, on TikTok and stuff. Like we literally get people that aren't even in our group. Yeah, like pretending like they know what goes on in our group, and like we said, some people just don't. See, like all your disposal guys are $1.01. Nah, but I will. Oh, sorry guys. I will actually take focus. But yeah, this is what we're doing on here because I wanted to really just focus more on the weekend that we had sort of last weekend. It was a very it was a very sort of tricky week, which we had to be very, very strategic. Sorry guys, and we actually saw a lot of these, which. Sorry guys, I'm just gonna actually take photos of these for my legal team because some of these are very silly. People didn't realize that you actually just can't go around on the internet making up complete lies, doing that sort of stuff. So that's why we just had to remove them, and it just spams through the chat and stuff as well. So it just actually makes it really hard for us to read. So let me just pull these up on here, guys. Sorry, I'll just catch up on where we were at. Sam, are you a hater? Yeah, bro. It literally I've been doing this for so long now. We see so many of these people that obviously like hang out on TikTok and stuff like that. That's why this platform's actually, so much better. Ideally, we can stream it to more services and stuff on here as well. We can obviously fit more on the green screens and stuff as well. But yeah, we did see. I think it was this actually person like that. Literally. Oh, it's buzzing, is it? Oh, sorry, man. Let me know if it's clear. Yeah, we literally get people making like accounts and stuff like that, saying all these odds are $1.01 and blah blah blah. Like, I think for you guys that have been on here long enough and doing these lives, as we always talk about, it's a really good discussion to have and be able to leverage sort of these green screens. And just because something's sort of up here, like we said with Darcy Cameron, you're probably not going to go throw him in your multi because he's not really a goal kicker. But the fact that he's maybe playing a little bit of a different role now, he's going to go forwards. It's just something to think maybe for the Pullum promo as well. So, Darcy Moore is out again. Yeah, Houston could get a lot now. Yeah, exactly, bro. But it's just it's a bit of a what if still, isn't it? Because Howe's still there as well. So does that really change? But like I said, this is probably a great week where you just steer clear of Houston and sort of maybe sit back and see how that role plays out. So. Houston done me last week. Yeah, there was a couple, bro. Probably the same ones that everyone had. Like I said, whether it was Wilmot, who kind of got pushed out of his role by Kitty Coleman going back, which obviously you don't really know until the game starts. It was Caleb Daniel going to sort of half forward, and then he went to sort of half back, and those magnets got thrown around, and then Wardlaw come into that midfield mix. Who was it? I think Tanner Bruin was the one probably that most people had. Was in unbelievable form. And then I think he like broke his nose. Was it just after the half or something? And then end up spending nearly half an hour. I think it was nearly 30 minutes in the second half or something crazy on the bench. But yet still managed to get to a pretty solid number. So it shows how good a form he was in and how good he was actually playing. So yeah, like I said, it's probably good lessons, because as much as it's great like we had for the first 4 weeks where you just go through and absolutely kill it and you don't really have to sweat too much. We had so many come through in like 3 quarters. You're never really learning too much from that, and you'll probably fall for a bit of a trap and you just feel like things are just going to happen and they're just going to keep playing out like that. And then as soon as you hit a little speed hump in the road, this is where people panic and they don't know what to do. They don't know when they should cash out and all these crazy things. So you really need rounds like this. So it's kind of a bit of a blessing when stuff like that happens early in the season. Now you should get a really good feel for how hard this can be to get consistent results all season long, year after year after year. You know, it's not easy. Otherwise, everyone would be doing it and everyone would be winning. When in reality, there is the tiniest, small, minute % of people in Australia that have any sort of success. So hopefully you guys, hopefully you can hear that now. Sorry guys, just quickly multitasking. I've probably only got another 10 minutes, guys, so I'll quickly whip through these. Um, Hey bro, how are you? I'm really good, thank you, bro. How are you? Isaac Quainer been playing well too. What do you reckon? Yes. My only concern with him, he's a bit more. Let me know if the mic's all right, guys. It should still be fine on my end. Nothing's changed, so hopefully it's all right. Just let me know if it isn't. Isaac Quainer, yeah. The only concern for him would be that he's a sort of lockdown defender. You know, he's not really one of those Houston Dacos types who's going to take a lot of kick-ins, be one of the distributors. So Mike's all good now. Yeah, I don't know. Must have just had a bit of a glitch or something. So. Do you ever consider marks or tackles? I don't really personally. Not to say there's anything wrong with it. I mean, like I say a lot, you know, each to their own. All you got to focus on is having success. So, as you can see, what some of these people don't understand is it doesn't really matter how you go about doing it. You know, as long as you're having success and helping other people having success, that's all that really matters in this space. That's what people should be focused on. So, yeah, look, each to their own, you know. If you think it's a good market and you're getting consistent results, you know, but by all means. But I just think footy can be pretty simple at times. My philosophy has always been that all those players go out there on a weekly basis trying to accumulate disposals to help their team win. That is essentially football in a nutshell. Every player is out there trying to get as many touches as they can. So why not maybe try and find the best 3, 4, 5 most consistent disposal winners on a weekly basis who maybe play a really good role that you like, you know? So, yeah, that's always sort of been my philosophy, and I mean, it's worked so well for us. But yeah, look, if you can find some consistency in players' tackles and stuff like that, and the values there, yeah, why not? But for us, I wouldn't start mixing them in too much, because I think we can do enough a lot of the time just between disposals or the results. I mean, you can start pairing multiple games together if you want to go that route. There's so many options, you know, especially when you've got a full round with like 9 teams playing on a weekend. You know, there's plenty of options. So there's definitely no right or wrong way to do it. Expecting Perryman to go... I don't think so. I think that's really going to be almost a one-off. I think no one ever expects Collingwood to tag. They probably haven't for a decade. And I think they caught St Kilda off guard by doing that. I think obviously when Nazai is the first $2 million player, he's all over the newspapers. I just think that was a great strategy. I don't think so. I think Perryman would get found out maybe against some other ones as well. I just think that was a really good matchup. They probably knew Nazai was going to rest forward, and they had confidence that Perryman can be a defender and also a defensive midfielder. But yeah, I don't think so. You could look at guys like a Lockie Neal or types like that, but I think they'll probably just back in their system, I think. And you think Zorko or Ashcroft will cop attention? Again, I don't think so, man. I don't think Collingwood's that sort of team, especially someone like Zorko. I mean, you could put some sort of a defensive forward on him, I guess. But it just throws your whole balance out too. Then you're just taking, you're basically taking from your offense to just be a bit more defensive. I just don't think that's in Collingwood's nature. They're a very system-based team, so like I said, I do think that was pretty much a one-off. Or if it's in a big game where it's against a Bontempelli or some of these types, you might see a Perryman or someone do a little bit of a job. But I mean, McCluggage is out at the moment, but Brisbane's probably one of those sides. Like, yeah, you could tag Lockie Neal, but then whether it's Ashcroft, who's been winning Norm Smith medals, or whether it's McCluggage or any of these other guys, Zach Bailey that can go through there. Any of these guys can get off the chain at any given time as well. So, Fletcher and Berry got to be the most reliable. Yeah, Fletcher's just a little bit of a watch for me. His numbers have definitely dropped off a lot since last year, and I think that's tied in with Kitty Coleman coming back. Because like I said, you look across that back line now, they've got so many ball distributors, which is their real strength, but there's only so many times, like, whether it's Wilmot, whether it's Zorko, whether it's Fletcher, whether it's Coleman now as well. So they've got to share those disposals a lot more. Neil had a quiet one last week. Yeah, he was getting tagged by Garcia. That was something that I probably thought would happen. But yeah, I don't think it would be like that this week. And I think for that reason too, I think you might sort of see the best of Lockie Neal in a bounce back. I mean, he still had 19 and got pretty heavily tagged right from, I was watching the replay a little bit before. I just really sort of the first quarter and then sort of how they come out after half time and whether that tag was right the way through. And there was still patches like sort of midway through the last quarter where Garcia was still following Lockie Neal pretty closely. So that was pretty much a full-blown heavy tag last week, and he still got to 19. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a really big one from Lockie Neal, from sort of 25 plus onwards. So, Neal got tagged, I think. Yeah, Garcia was the one from the Saints. Personally, I've only done Tracy for marks because I trust him. Yeah, that's a great example too, right? Like you look at his numbers. He's probably one of the best marks in the competition right now. I've seen people start comparing his hands to Wayne Carey and this sort of stuff. So, again, man, I would say that's just a really good, smart, logical decision. And whether someone that likes disposals, whether you like marks, whether you tackles, if you can find a consistent prop line that delivers your results, then that's all you're really looking to do. So, yeah, I'm never opposed to trying new things. And like I said, we literally just went with the same philosophy for 4 weeks straight from preseason to round 2. And as you can see, we're up to like 64 units from basically doing the same thing. And then you can see in a round like this where it was like, oh, okay, maybe that's not going to work this week because we didn't factor in all these players still getting the magnets thrown around and played in different positions and the extra bench minutes. So that was part of my reason probably why I fell for the trap of I wanted to go for like a Simpkin or a Tom Powell or someone at North. And then what was worrying me was the percentage of time on ground they play was quite low. Then you had Wardlaw coming back into the mix. So I sort of thought they might get stuck on the bench. Let me look for someone for like a Merritt who's probably going to play a huge amount of game time. They've been playing him forward at times rather than the bench. And then he obviously come out and got one of the heaviest tags he'll probably get all season long. So, yeah, like I said, it's probably tinkering with some of these things that we did. And then, like I said, to even be able to adapt with in-round and still be able to come away with some wins when it was looking like a really sort of tough weekend, to be able to execute on a couple of key decisions. Like I said, when it looked like we were going to have some big losses. We're in such a good position where we could just cash out, take some little profits, and just kept rolling that over, making a few good decisions, and then really targeted that Melbourne Carlton game. Me being a Melbourne supporter, felt really good about that last game to be able to double down and get ourselves back in front, which is exactly what we did. So, yeah, some really good lessons, I think. How good are the Eagles? Harley Reid and Tim Kelly in good form. Yes, sir. They're actually become really fun to watch too. Really enjoyable to watch. So, yeah, I'm absolutely loving it at the moment. Watching them. I was very big on Harley Reid preseason, even talking about him as a super coach sort of buy. He just looks so much fitter. He looks a lot more committed, really invested. We can see how much he loves to win, and it just feels like they've got a bit more belief in themselves. Cooper Duff Tyler's another one. Lindsay at halfback, who I think is going to be a star for a long time as well. Tim Kelly looks like he's back at his best. Yeah, just some really good role players like Liam Duggan behind the footy. Shanahan down forward too. They got some key forwards coming through. You've got Waterman down there. Yeah, starting to build a really good list for sure. If a player is having a heater this season, but their stats against the next team are really poor, does that play any part on the role or picks? That's where I think stats can be a little bit tricky, bro. So, just say a guy struggles against a certain team, but you got to look back. That would have been last year, that game. So it's like, has that team changed? Has the coach changed? There's so many different variables. So I'm not very big on, this guy played crap. It would be like, say, Wilmot last week. It's like every time now you play St Kilda, you go, oh, Wilmot struggles against St Kilda. I don't think he struggles against St Kilda at all. I just think it was the fact that Kitty Coleman got changed position midway through the game and started stealing all his normal stats, So if you just look at something on a surface level on paper and go, oh, he struggled against this team, I think it is a lot deeper than that. Unless there's a guy who gets heavily tagged, or it's a forward who struggles against a certain key defender. Well, that would make a lot of sense. But yeah, I think you just got to be a little bit careful buying into too many stats like that. So I would just back the fact that you're sitting there watching every game, sort of making these decisions based on what you see rather than sort of what the stats say, if that makes sense. So thoughts on Kitty Coleman? We touched on that one a little bit. I think he's really tricky at the moment because, like I said, we've seen him play half forward. Now we've also seen him play at half back. So it's a real watch for me, that half back line that was so consistent last year. But I think we're going to see some real inconsistencies. Like I said, with Fletcher down there, Coleman, Zorko, Wilmot, all these guys that they love just getting the football themselves. They all love trying to get kick-ins. They all want to be the distributor of half-back. There's only so many distributors can have before you start stealing the possessions from other people. So I'd much rather them, on a personal level, for this stuff that we're doing, I'd much rather it when he wasn't in the team because they were very consistent. Wilmot and Fletcher were super consistent, along with Zorko as well. So he's just really changed that whole dynamic, which is just a little bit of a watch and see, because it doesn't look like they've made up their mind just yet where they're actually going to play him, So it's very hard trying to get consistent results on someone that the coach doesn't even know where he's going to play yet. How are we sort of expected to know what role this guy's going to play if the coach hasn't even made his mind up yet? Which, like I said, we probably unfortunately saw that a few times. Caleb Daniel, like, as soon as he went to half-back, he just absolutely dominated. I think he probably nearly had like 20 disposals or something in the second half when he went to half-back. But, so yeah, it's definitely one to watch. Eagles got a chance against the Swans. Oh, look, it's hard to rule them out right now. I think it's going to depend who will play. I think I did see potentially maybe Heaney's back. And a couple of other players for Sydney. So, yeah, look, they're playing really good football right now. Like, I thought they were maybe half a chance against Port, who I really don't rate at all. But yeah, the fact that they can now go over and win big interstate games as well on the road was a huge tick for them. So, right now they're playing really good football, and as we know, at the highest level, these are still real quality players, even in the lesser teams. So, it's going to be interesting to see how they go because it's obviously a big test. But Eagles seems to get better as the game goes on. Yeah, they really do. I mean, even if you go through and look at their numbers statistically, like they've really sort of dominated in second halves or even after quarter time. They are, whether it's their endurance or just the belief in themselves. Like I said, looks like it's grown a lot this year. Where they have a lot more trust that they can actually run games out and win it. They're invested. The players look more invested for longer periods of the game. So, how come you don't use tab for multis? 9 plus to 14 plus market to elite. Yes, they are, bro, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I just do think it is a bit more limited, and the value, I think the real bonus for it is that it's like if you fall one short, which does sound very good on a surface level, but yeah, I mean, I think that this Sportsbet and these other ones basically give you that opportunity anyway. I think. Because is it on there where it jumps? Is it tab where it jumps from on then it's got to be 15 to 20, sort of where most of them lie. So, yeah, I think it's definitely a good app too. But like I said, we've been able to leverage the PointsBet promo and have a little bit of fun with that. Which I think around about 11 or 12 units or something we made just off that leverage and that promo as well. So, yeah, I would highly recommend to everyone to download as many apps as you can and have some fun with these features. Anything you can do to give yourself a better chance of winning. So, a lot more quiet on here than TikTok. Yeah, though, that's really what I wanted tonight, bro. And it was more around the fact that we probably you can't talk too much of the business side of this and specifics around like sports and stuff like this because it'll get flagged on there as like financial advice, especially if it's in sports betting and promoting gambling, all that sort of stuff. YouTube's a lot better. The way we can do this as well, you can fit a lot more on the green screen. Yeah, I'll eventually be trying to use this a lot more. But I mean, TikTok is definitely good if you to like draw an audience and stuff. I mean, so many people are on there on lives, just always flicking through. But yeah, that wasn't really a concern for me tonight. Like I said, I don't have really much time. I've probably literally got another 5 minutes and I'll have to jump off. It was more to just sort of go through what we sort of went through last week, sort of the struggles we went through and how we're still able to come out on top by just making a few of these smart decisions along the way. And allowing maybe people to ask some questions that wanted clarification on some of that stuff. Because like I said, it's, you really want to have this, be across this stuff coming into the round. So then when these things are unfolding in real time and you need to make crucial split-second decisions, people have the confidence and the ability now to go, okay, well, this is exactly what we were talking about midweek. I know exactly what I probably need to do here, and this is going to be crucial for me to maybe have success. Maybe when other people lose, I'm going to put myself in a winning position because I understand I'm doing this all season long, and it's all about just accumulating these small little winners along the way and stacking them up, as you guys can see with the results we've got so far. So, liking Braden Maynard 12 to 13. Yeah, I think absolutely, bro. If you're talking about consistency, like I said, it seemed to affect Houston a little bit and his role with Darcy Moore and Howie coming back. But yeah, Bruz seems to just do that sort of week in, week out, even if he is playing a bit of a lockdown role. A lot of it's just on these switch kicks where he's sort of a kick behind the play. You're never going to get manned up in those situations as well. I mean, he's got such a nice left foot as well. You sort of like him kicking the ball. So, yeah, the only concern sometimes with defenders like that, like we probably saw a bit with Wilmot last week when Coleman come back and he got pushed like deep. At certain times, players might drag them deep to the goal square to maybe take away some of their run. But like I said, I don't think Maynard's one of them that teams are going to be saying, hey, we need to take him away. He sort of finds a way as a lockdown defender to, yeah, like you said, to still get his sort of around 15 each week. So you feel pretty comfortable around sort of 12, 13, knowing that he's going to consistently hit that, 14 to 15 at least pretty comfortably. I know it's a bit far, but quick tip on Hawks Cats. Yeah, I honestly haven't even had a look into it just yet, bro. But I mean, on a surface level, that's going to be a really hard one to pick, isn't it? I think we've seen the best and the worst of both teams, right? I think Hawthorn were absolutely horrendous against, was it the Giants in round one? And we saw how bad Geelong looked in that first game as well, which they always sort of come out a little bit slow. So, one thing I would say is it's probably going to be a really close game, like most of those Easter Monday games are. So, yeah, I think that might actually end up being a really good game. I don't normally love Geelong games because they've got those levers that they can pull with taggers, like we saw them do a job on Rankin and some of these. I'm not sure Hawthorn's really got a player like that they would worry too much about. I mean, it could be Newcomb. I mean, they might play like a defensive forward on a guy like Sicily or something. You know, this is something that Geelong have notoriously done. But the good thing is Hawthorn won't really tag. So you might see guys like Max Home and Bailey Smith play with some real freedom. And then you got so many guys like we were talking about with Maynard in that real sweet spot from sort of 12 to sort of 15. With your Scrimshaws and your Joshy Battles and your Jarman Impies and your Sicilies, your Dylan Moores, your Connor McDonalds, Ward, Connor Nash in the midfield. Like, they're kind of stacked in that slot, which I love, because a lot of the time these are how you're going to tick these off in 3 quarters when guys only need, you know, maybe 12 or 13 disposals and they're playing midfield minutes. You know, even with Ginnivan and Watson, you can throw them in the mix. You know, you look at Hawthorn's numbers and majority of their players are all getting probably 12 plus every single week. You're probably going to have a couple of stragglers in a forward pocket or something like that, but they're just a very even side across the board, which I like. So, and putting 50 on this, bro. Again, bro, this is what I'm opposite here, but just above my head there, bro. Like I said, we definitely don't encourage that, but, you know, we're all grown-ups. If you want to have a little bit of fun, by all means, but these really are just for content purposes. It just makes it so much easier when people jump on. They can see what game we're talking about. There's some goal kickers there. There's some disposals there. And then we can really just discuss some of these and break them down, knowing full well that you probably really only want 4 or 5 picks maximum if you can. And then the discussion becomes, out of all these names on here, who do we like best? Why do we like it? Who should we maybe stay away from? And then by discussing this, come the end of the live, when you guys maybe go to put some picks on tomorrow, the idea is that we've discussed a lot of this and maybe you feel a little bit confident about some of this stuff, and it helps you make some decisions. That's essentially what we're trying to do. So, not going near Will Ashcroft. Look, he's probably going to be right up there again. You just expect him to probably get his 20 plus. The only worry with me, he can be that type of guy who struggles, really sweats it out to get to his 19, 20 or his 21. And the value is just really not there. It's probably the only downside with a team like Brisbane or Collingwood, I guess, with the Dacos brothers. Unless you're taking them for 23, 24, 25 in the case of Nick, it's not really worth the risk. Like I said, you could probably go take a Maynard at 12 and get far better, or definitely better value than what you would get for Will Ashcroft at probably even 21 or 20, you know what I mean? So what's a safer, smarter pick? Say Maynard to get 11 or Will Ashcroft to get 20. Who's going to get there quicker? Because essentially whoever can get there quicker is just less risk of injury. You know, if Braden Maynard can get that, say, midway through the 3rd quarter, and then Will Ashcroft takes till 2 minutes before the siren, you know, there's an extra quarter and a half there where anything can go wrong, like we saw with Tanner Bruin. They could get stuck on the bench for a half an hour. They could get injured. The coach could change their position. All this crazy shit that we saw happen last week, that can happen at any given time, and it's just a bit of a reminder of that. So if you're looking through the lens of, you know, what's the quickest, safest, sort of smartest way I can try and get that green tick and get out and move on to the next game, that's essentially what you're trying to do. So that's why I weigh it up. And like I said, that's exactly why I put these things up here, so we can discuss maybe Lipinski or Maynard versus maybe Dacos or Zorko, knowing full well that Dacos and Zorko are probably going to be right up there, right at the top. Just because they're going to get the most disposals, does that mean they're the safest, smartest pick? Are they going to get it quick? and how much risk does that come with, and is the value actually worth taking that risk for, essentially. So that's, like I said, that's exactly what we're trying to discuss on here. So people can use this information to hopefully go out and make some picks on the back of it. So has Chris' role changed? He's playing like on a wing. He's one that I actually really like. He's not even, you can't even really get him at like, I used to love it when you get him at sort of 13, 14 or 15. I think his minimum now is 16 at the moment, and the value's not really there. So he's probably going to have to be a 17 or an 18 plus guy. And yeah, it looks a bit more like a wing role, where he just really pushes up high around the stoppages, might get the odd sort of centre bounce. So plays a pretty good role. I reckon you might see a bit of him and Jared Berry head to head on the wing. Yeah, that's just my worry. I did see him multiple times last year. He was a guy we really liked, but he did sort of really struggle at times when the ball was trapped on the other side of the ground playing that wing role. But like you said, it does seem to be a wing role, but it seems to be with a little bit more of a license to cover more of the ground. If you probably go and have a look at his heat maps, you probably see that he's almost playing more of a midfield role, although he's starting on the wing. So if they tag Newcomb, he needs to find a way to break it or Cats win. Yeah, I agree, bro. He's and I think that is why you probably consider tagging him, right? Because it does take away a lot from your own game plan, and obviously you're pretty much losing a midfielder at times if you want to tag, or you're taking away on your offense. You're sacrificing some of your offensive game to try and make those decisions. But yeah, a player like that, like I said, if you can really limit Newcomb, then I think the Cats can definitely win. So it would not surprise me at all to see them go after Newcomb for sure. Or whether it's maybe even with an Atkins who just maybe plays a bit of a defensive mid-type around him, maybe at stoppages. Or whether they go for an O'Sheen Mullen or an O'Connor type to really lock him down. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that either. Do you ever cash out? Absolutely, bro. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because it was sort of very crucial for us over the weekend. Like I said, we were in great position in, I think it was 3 of the games, where we had really good cash out options where we could basically take like a unit and a half to, I think, up to 2.5 units on some of them, I think, when we're able to cash out. At 3/4 time, cash out makes sort of over 2 units profit, and then we didn't have to sweat out the risk. And it can be crucial, some of these, I think one of them, I think was at the West Coast game, I think we needed Graham in the midfield. Was it Graham? I think we needed him to have like 1 disposal in the last quarter, or maybe 2 disposals in the last quarter, and I think he had 1, and he had 1 that they actually took back from him because it was out of bounds, or something crazy happened, but he basically had like 1 touch in the whole quarter and ended up falling short. So it was just a really good decision at the right time, that we didn't need to take the risk. It was best off pocketing a little bit of profit because we'd been sort of struggling for the first few games. So I just put a priority on just taking profit where we could, just to keep ourselves in the round, just to keep ourselves in the hunt. And then I really liked the Melbourne game to finish to the point where we could use all those little cash outs. And then, like I said, just sort of left in a position where I could really attack that last game where it wasn't any sort of huge, crazy risk. And if it didn't pay off for me, the risk versus reward was just there for me, having done so much hard work, as you guys can see, over the first few rounds. This is why you do those hard works and stack all these huge wins that we've been able to, because then you have the flexibility to make some of these maybe decisions to end on a winning note when maybe other people have to just settle for a loss, and this is the stuff that we're really trying to teach people, and this is really the crucial part of it. The picks are one thing, obviously, but and like I said, more trying to do that through these lives during the week and have these conversations now. So when we sit there at 3/4 time on a Thursday night or a Saturday or a Sunday when everyone's busy and tensions are high and you've got seconds to make decisions, people feel very comfortable in these decisions that they're making. Because like I said, we're all grown adults. People have to take responsibility. You can have the picks there. We've all got the same information, but yet we're always going to see different people make different decisions based on their mentality and where they're at and their finances and all these different things. And that's exactly how it should be. And this is sort of what we're really trying to encourage people to maybe get to that level. So they have that sort of understanding and they're comfortable within themselves to go out and just make these decisions, which can be crucial. So, yeah, we really didn't have to. I mean, we just absolutely killed it that first month when things went so smooth. And like I said, we just sort of happened to catch one of those rounds, whether it was a bunch of tags sort of went on, or like I said, maybe it was players coming back that changed other roles, whether Daniel going from half forward to half back, or Kitty Coleman went from half forward down to half back. We saw it with Florent as well, who'd been taking every single kick out. He was almost their number one distributor there over the first few weeks. Carlton loved getting the ball in his hands. All of a sudden, Zach Williams got thrown back there, stole all the kick-ins. He was racking up the disposals, and Florent sort of got pushed aside. So he was having a stinker, but then all of a sudden, Williams went off the ground with an injury. Florent went back into his traditional role, and then I think got like 10 disposals or 11 in the last quarter, or something crazy like that, as soon as he went back to his role. So, yeah, it can be really crucial for sure, because like I said, this if you're in this to just have success in the long term and just make money, if you've got some profit there where you can take a couple of units at 3/4 time, knowing that you've got some more games to come, then we've got another 20 rounds to come this year. You know, there's no rush. You don't have to try and force it all in one game. You know, just take those wins when they present themselves and just keep ticking them off the winners, and all those little winners start to compound, as you guys can see, into some really healthy results very early on in the season. We've just got such a good platform now. You know, I can take some of these risks and make some of these decisions because I've been doing this work for a long time overall. But as you can see, even in the first few weeks, we've been able to amass that amount of units. So we're in a really good position now when some people have to be like, oh no, I can't bet anymore, or that would be chasing a loss for me because I haven't done that work. We're in a really good position now where it's like, you know, you can risk losing 5, 6, 7 units at a time. It just means you're still going to be 50 plus for the season, which is all that really matters, that you're still ahead overall. It doesn't matter so much about one day, one game, one round, 1 week. Who really gives a shit in the bigger picture? You know, you start at the start of the season, you finish at the end of the season, and it's all about where you get to at the end of the season. You know, this is why it's still sort of crazy to me to see people get upset and emotional after one day or one game or one quarter. It sort of blows my mind, that you've really got to look at the bigger picture and ask yourself why you're doing it in the first place. And for us, it's simple. You know, I've done it professionally for a long time now, traveling all around the world, doing all different sports, doing it. And like I said, now the emphasis is on really trying to sort of teach people as well to have these results. And that's why I put such an emphasis on doing these lives. And like I said, even going through the effort of jumping over onto YouTube tonight, knowing that it gives us more flexibility to talk about these specifics around numbers and business and stuff like that without getting flagged. So, hey bro, first weekend of profit. Thank you for the tips on how to correctly think about the bets. Welcome, bro. Like I said, if it was your first week, it was actually probably our worst week by far. As you can see by the numbers, it was a real struggle. Like I said, definitely some on me with the Merit one. I sort of kicked myself because I went back and forth on that a few times. I think it was Wardlaw coming in and changing some midfield minutes and some stuff there, which we didn't really lose out on that one. We got a nice quick cash out, but yeah, a couple of those ones, you know, like you probably ask everyone. I mean, you look at the Supercoach numbers and that as well. Everyone had Tanner Bruin. He was absolutely killing it. You know, a guy gets injured and sits on the bench for half an hour in the second half. You know, you're probably not going to win too much. You know, we sort of isolate the things we lost on, and it was really every single one of them had their worst output all season, like by far. It was their worst game massively this season. So if guys come out and have their worst game of the year and you're still in a position to take out cash at at 3/4 time, it just actually shows you that you're doing so much right. And then even when you're getting really unlucky, like we did on some of these, we actually still had the opportunity to make money, which was the great thing. And like I said, it was sort of crucial for us. And then we had, you know, the 4 weeks prior, we literally just sat back and watched the wins roll in, which, like I said, it is amazing, but it can also be a bit of a downfall at times because you just fall for this trap of like, oh, how easy is this? I don't even need to watch the games. We never cash out because we win them all so easy. the first time you hit the speed bump, this is when people start panicking and stuff. So, like I said, I think there is so many lessons in what people went through last week. So, um, I love that mentality too, bro. I mean, I have the same sort of in business. When things aren't going right, that's when you sort of learn a lot about yourself. And if you can get through those sort of tough times and still find a way to come out on top, you just like, fuck, imagine when things actually go perfect, like, like we've seen, to get 30 units in a round, 20 units in a round. So yeah, probably a really tough week, but I'm glad that you still enjoyed the process, man, because that's really what it's about. So, hey, confident on Brizzy getting this done. Yeah, I would say so. I mean, Brisbane at the Gabba. Obviously, Harris Andrews is a huge out for them. I would say Collingwood probably doesn't give them too many worries with tall forwards. The fact now they're going in with the sort of two ruckman and Cameron's a bit more of a forward. I just think if Brisbane are anywhere near their best, I just think they beat Collingwood. I think they're a better team. Obviously, they have been for years now. Yeah, they're at home. Like I said, no Darcy Moore, no Pendlebury. So I think the injuries have sort of leveled themselves out there. So yeah, at a gut feel, I would be picking Brisbane. That's why I sort of threw it up there. If anyone wanted my thoughts of who I'll be probably tipping in this one. And then below that, what I've done with pick your own line, what I would suggest, you saw it maybe in like a Port Adelaide game was crucial. I think we had maybe set it at 15.5 in that one. A team that should probably win, you feel pretty comfortable with, but you feel if maybe there is going to be an upset, it would only be by a goal or two maximum. Like, I think if Collingwood beat Brisbane, it could be in a real close game where they win by a goal or 2 goals, you know what I mean? So if I was to take Brisbane in our picks when we eventually do them, I would at least maybe try and give them like an 18-point head start, 20-point head start. You might get that sort of $1.20 value or something there, and that might be a nice little way to build a multi around, so you don't have to add in too many player props. If you can try and eke out $1.20 or something in the result with a 3-goal head start to Brisbane at home against an injured Collingwood side, I think that's not a bad way to do it. So that's why I've put them both up there for those reasons. So, yeah, it was a rough round. Yeah, well, probably one of the crazier ones I've seen for years, to be honest. But like I said, you also kind of see where people get emotional and flustered. People that do this professionally, like I do, can sit there and still make rational decisions. And then on the back of like one game, essentially on that Melbourne game, which we really targeted, I knew exactly what I needed to do when I went into the round. Like, we already had a plan, obviously, outlaid. And like I explained to everyone, this is where people need to get good at this sort of stuff. We can say, like, all right, we're going to outlay 3 units on the Carlton game. But then say all of a sudden you lose the game before that. Maybe you lose 3 or 4 there. So now you've got another decision to make. Okay, we've already got 3 units placed on this game. I would actually now love to double down on that and maybe bump that up to like 6 or 7 units because of maybe that last loss that we've had. And you can leverage that last game to offset, current results. So, like I said, we can have these plans in place, but sometimes you need to be sitting there and watching the game and being like, oh shit, this one looks like it's going to miss. And then for me, it was like, let's take a quick cash out on this one. Let me bank that profit, and I'm going to roll that profit over, and I'm going to double down on this next game we've got. And all I need to do now is win on this last game. That's going to offset these other losses this weekend, and then we can sit here and celebrate another successful week overall on what could have been like a real disaster. Just so many, little things going wrong, or getting stuck on the bench, or injured, or falling one disposal short. Some of the crazy stuff, it just sort of all happened to be at once. So to be able to, like I said, to be able to just sit through that, make rational decisions, and then come out in front is really the key in that. So, I wish I got him round 1. Those units look, yeah, and that's what I sort of said. It sucks. It's very unfortunate. People see how much we're killing it, and then they come in and have a real struggle, and then they're like, oh well, this is fucking shit. It's like, you've just got to have a bit of common sense about you. I mean, the results are there and we're sitting here discussing it. We had an unbelievable smooth run. It's not going to be like that forever. like I said, some people make that decision. They sit around and watch us for 6 weeks, and then they come in and then it's a tough week, and then they get all emotional. Oh, but you said you've been winning, and then I come in and you lose. It's like, yeah, we had been winning, and then now we had a bit of a tough week. You can't come in and expect everything to happen in 1 week. This is why you need to be able to commit to something and ride out the ups and downs. And this is why most people don't have success. Like I said, I still see guys getting emotional and upset literally after quarter time. And then they wonder why they can't have long-term consistent results. They can't even sit through a quarter without whinging, or getting emotional or cracking the shit. So good luck trying to sit through a whole season. And like I said, this is the stuff that we're really trying to teach. It's not easy. If it was easy, everyone out here would be absolutely killing it. Which is just not the case. It's why most people lose, because it is very hard to keep showing up week in, week out, year after year after year, and delivering consistent results. So yeah, plenty of good lessons. How much you think Brisbane winning by? Oh, that's a good one, bro. If I was to put a number on it, I see it a bit like the St Kilda game last week, where it might be a really good contest for maybe 3 quarters. Brisbane do have lapses in games, especially with some of their injuries and stuff. I don't know, let's say, I think the line's set at 20 or something, so it's like almost the opposite. The line's actually set at minus 20. I want to say around maybe like, let me say 17 points, just a bit of a gut feel. I would say maybe 3 or 4 goals where it's pretty close throughout. Brisbane maybe kick away late and end up with a 3 or 4 goal win. Or, yeah, let's say from sort of 17 to 24 in that sort of realm, somewhere around there. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, Tanner cost me a multi, yeah. This is why it's so funny when I see, there was, you guys might have seen before, but these accounts that we still block and stuff, but yeah, people will literally go around like, oh, this guy couldn't even pick Tanner Bruin, and he was like at such short odds. I'm like, yeah, he had the worst game of the year, and he got injured and spent half an hour on the bench in the second half, and still nearly ticked it off. I think he still only needed 2 disposals, so he spent half an hour on the bench and still nearly got it. And I think he had 0 disposals in the last quarter. So you're talking about one of the craziest things you're ever gonna see when a guy has that many minutes on the bench, and he has 0 in the last quarter, yet he was still only a couple of disposals away. That shows how actually good of a pick it was. And it's just, just stuff you can't control. So, obviously us rational sort of people understand that, but you guys see, I mean, not so much on here, but more on TikTok. Yeah, people on the back of that, see, you just got to understand that's all part of it. And like I said, this is the stuff that I enjoy sort of talking about, and especially now when we see it firsthand. Guys can see now how tough it can be at times, and if you don't have the balls to sort of sit through these like tougher times, then you're gonna miss out on all the really good easy winners as well, because you've sort of been too emotional and overreacted, and you've cracked the shits and given up. The amount of times I've seen people say, oh, I need a break, I'm stepping away, or they'll leave our group for like a week. So we might dominate, they're loving it, and then they have a tough week, and then they go, oh, nah, this is shit, I'm taking a break, I lost this week. A lot of the time we've gone out and had our biggest weeks on the back of some of these tougher rounds, because we learn a lot from it. Or we might go out and absolutely kill it for the next 2 weeks, and then they miss out on it, and then they get emotional because they missed out on it, and then they come back and just expected it to pick up where they left off. It's like you can't jump in and out of something and keep chopping and changing and expect to see consistency. Like, if you want to see consistent results, you need to keep showing up consistently yourself. It's a bit of a no-brainer. This is, I mean, common knowledge in all walks of life and business, to be honest. So it is no different, probably more prevalent in a space like this than anything else. So he probably cost everyone, bro, for sure. No Harris Andrews is more of a loss than Moore and Pendles. Yes, I would agree for sure. But is it so much against Collingwood? I think maybe the fact that they got Darcy Cameron down there that could stretch them a little bit. Yeah, I just think if they can win the midfield battle and the power Brisbane's got forward to centre as well, at home, they should still be strong enough, I think. But he is a huge loss. Absolutely. Well, if I got a good result from this round, I must be doing something right. Yeah, exactly, bro. And that's like we said, yeah, we still found a way to come out when you, because like I said, even when you get unlucky and you lose these, like if you're only missing by one disposal, that really means that you should have had the opportunity to cash out, make some really good profit. Now, if you've sat there and passed up on profit and taken that risk, you've got to live with those decisions. Like I said, we made it sort of clear in that chat too, like I said, it gets very hard to try and tell people and then people to open their phone and then see it. By that, the cash out changes literally in seconds. You guys would have seen it. You could lose half of it within a second on the back of one goal, or for every second that ticks over on that clock, it's changing. So, this is why we posted at 3/4 time and say, hey guys, we are sitting here right now with profit. It's probably the smart decision. It is up to you guys. You know what I mean? And then other people can say, all right, cool. Well, I think this is a bit of a risk. I really need a winner maybe at the moment, so I'm going to make the safe, smart decision. There might have been other guys that have been with me since the start or even through the NFL season or last year that are like, oh, I can probably take the risk because I've got so many units stacked up in the bank. I'm probably in a position where I can take a little bit of a risk. So this is the point. You've really got to make decisions based on where you sit with this. It's all well and good following my advice and what I'm doing. Like I said, keep in mind with all the units that I've got in the bank. So I can make decisions based on my own finances and the decisions that I've made. It doesn't mean someone that comes in on their first day or two should be probably making those, maybe taking the same risks or making those same decisions that I am, because they're not at that same level just yet. So this is something that, like I said, people sort of need to gauge. We can outlay a plan for the day and unit sizes and all this stuff, but people have also got to be aware that, you don't want to be overextending yourself and stuff like this, and you need to translate that information into your own situation. It is super, super important, obviously. As a Brizzy fan, I think it's 1-39. Yeah, I think so too, bro. Like I said, maybe around that, in between the 3 to 4 goal, I reckon. 17 to 19 points, something like that. Always pretty close, these games, let's be honest. It's pretty rare that it blows out even over that 24 point, really, off the top of my head. Who do you support? I go for the D's, bro. D's. Seems like the Cats are the only team to play around the 5th bench spot. Yeah, well, this is part of the battle too, man. It's like when you're looking for consistency, you start feeling like, okay, these coaches are doing one thing, and then they just come out and do the complete different. So, yeah, it's something I'm definitely trying to be mindful. And like I said, probably went too mindful and avoided guys like Tom Powell and Simpkin and some of these guys, Wardlaw. Not sure with bringing another midfielder in, shit, they're probably going to get more time on the bench. So you start looking, all right, well, let me just go focus on the key players, like the superstars. And then all of a sudden, in that game, I think there was like 3 separate tags, and then Caleb Daniel was played out of position. So you're like, oh shit, that's another thing as well on top of these bench minutes. So yeah, like I said, it's this is all part of the early season, you know what I mean? So yeah, like I sort of said, it is kind of crazy to see, people like we've had such a great run. Like, there's probably not too many people out there that won nearly 65 units, coming into round 3. And yet people can have like one tough week and they're getting so emotional. It's like you're still so far ahead of most people in the country. But yet this is the thing. People just get so upset by one day or one round or 1 week. Like I said, and if they had been able to just sort of stick with what we were doing, make these decisions as we sort of discussed, and still come out in front on what would have been a really tough round otherwise. So, yeah, look, hopefully it's a lot smoother this week, and you probably rarely ever see me cashing out ever unless we really need to. But like I said, I think it was actually a really good learning curve for a lot of guys. And, even the fact too, I mean, we had guys saying, oh yeah, but I can't do that because I use a different app. It's like, well, how's that? That's no one else's problem. If you choose to use an app, like we recommend using Sportsbet because they're the best probably at voiding for injuries and also for the cash out option. So that's another thing I think someone mentioned on Tab. I just don't think you have that flexibility to cash out. And so yes, you get the 1- disposal, but there's also a lot of downsides to these other ones. So this is why I'll put the slip up there and say, hey guys, we're using sports bet. This is what I think is best for this sort of bet we're doing, or whether that's points bet. So like I said, the information can be right there in front of you, but people might still choose to, oh no, I prefer to use points bet, but then they get upset when they don't get their money back for a void because they got injured. It's like, yeah, but you chose to use that app, or if we've even seen a couple of guys that were like banned from certain apps that we're using, and I'm like, well, like, what do you want us to do, bro? Like, I can't unban you. Like, this is what we do because it's the best ones for us to use. Unfortunately, like, if you don't have access to these, there's not much we can do really. It's a situation you're in. So let it ride. Yeah. Well, normally I do, bro. But like I said, when you're in my position where my main focus is on getting results for other people, like gone to the days where I'll have to lay out huge amounts of money and probably do different styles, which will probably going to get me flagged a lot more eventually. Now it's really about probably doing these lives and having these discussions and implementing some of these things. So as someone else said, profit is profit. So you're going to get two ends of the scale, and that's probably a great reflection right there in the comments of, yeah, some people will just take that smart financial decision and say, hey, I'm just here to win some money. I've got 2 units sitting right in front of me now for profit. It seems like an unnecessary risk. Let me take these 2 units profit and I'm going to load it up and double down a little bit more on the Carlton game because I've got a bit more trust in that one. You know what I mean? So some people made that decision based off the information we had. Other people let it ride, and probably lost on a few of these games where we were able to cash out and make that decision. And like I said, even though we had that information sitting there saying, I highly suggest having a look at the cash out right now, you guys will make profit. That's probably the one time that it's not going to fluctuate. At 3/4 time, that's not going to dip up and down. You'll find that's when you're going to see that cash out sort of hover around the same thing for probably 4 or 5 minutes. So like I said, or for anyone in my group, that's what I'd be highly suggesting. Even if you're maybe not watching the game, try and at least set a reminder on your phone just to check in at 3/4 time. You might be out and busy. Shit, let me check on my slip at 3/4 time. How are we sitting? Do I need to cash out? Make a quick decision and then go on with your day. You know what I mean? At least you're just thinking about these things and putting these things in places. And this is going to be the difference. Some people are sitting there watching every game with phone in hand, making live crucial decisions. And this is why they get really good results. And like I said, maybe other people struggle because they maybe have that approach, just let it ride. So each to their own too. Like I said, if you're doing really well, you got plenty of units in the bank, well, then you can probably afford to let it ride a little bit and have some fun, And that this is something that I don't know, which I say to a lot of guys, I don't know what your situation is. Is it your first day? Have you been with me for a year? I really don't know. So this is why we sort of try and discuss these things and let people sort of put the onus on themselves to make these decisions, because at the end of the day, it's your money and it's your decision that you have to live with. So like I said, we can provide the information there, and then it's up to the individual on how they want to act on that and how seriously they want to take it. So how fun are the Eagles to watch? Yes, sir. We've had that one a couple of times. It is actually good. It'd be nice if all the teams are competitive. I think this is going to be one of the most one-sided seasons we've probably ever seen, and I think a few people were talking about it. Some analysts or something in the media during the week. Imagine when Tassie comes in. I think the talent pool is just spreading really thin now. Where you're seeing some, like I think Kane Corns put it on some of the Port guys, some guys that are probably. Really, at the end of the day, they're probably VFL players. But right now, with as the league gets bigger and bigger and more players, you're going to start seeing a discrepancy once Tassie comes in as well. I mean, like I said, some of these good teams are probably going to lose some of their best players over to Tassie. All the best draft picks are going to go there. So, yeah, good luck being Essendon or Port or Carlton or some of these teams that are about to go through a very big rebuild. Not a great time to be doing it, which I did see. I think might have even been Chad Corns talking about. It's probably the best thing to let Georgiades and even Zach Butters, who's probably gone anyway, but you would probably do it now if it's going to happen in a couple of years anyway, and try and get in like 5 first rounders or something if you're going to let them go, and really start the rebuild now while you can before Tassie actually come in. So yeah, it's interesting. As much as they put these things in place to try and even out the competition, it's gone so far the other way that I don't remember ever seeing probably this many mismatches. You know, you've always had your pretty shit sides. I mean, my team, Melbourne, being one of them for a very long time, just getting absolutely slaughtered every week for year after year. But I mean, now, like I said, whether it's, I mean, Richmond's slowly coming good on West Coast now, but they've probably been in it the last couple of years, and then North, then Essendon, Carlton. There's going to be, I mean, Essendon against Bulldogs. I mean, fuck that's going to be an ugly game. You might see nearly a handful of Western Bulldogs guys all have fucking 30 plus, and you might see 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 goals kicked, whether it's nor Darcy or like that's going to be such a bad look for the AFL. I think there's going to be a few of those games. You know, whether it's the Doggies or maybe Brisbane at home or some of these elite sides when they come up against Essendon in particular. So, how is Crows favourites to win against Freo? Oh, I haven't looked at that just yet, bro. I'll probably sit down and have a good look through the other games tomorrow as well. But it's in Adelaide though, isn't it? I'm pretty sure. So that would probably be a big part of it. I think maybe Jordan Dawson was coming back in. Yeah, Sportsbet and PointsBet, if they doing pullouts, are the best. Yeah, I think so too. I thought they were maybe going to take it away. I don't know if this is everyone else. You guys might be able to tell me. Mine actually got restricted. You can still do it on the AFL, but it was like max 50. They've taken it down to max 25. I don't know if that was just me on the base of the results we were getting. So I can still do it. They've just limited that a little bit, but they are actually doing it for the NBA, which I love because we're about to start doing a whole bunch of NBA a lot too. So you guys will probably see me doing more of these lives exactly like this, just on weekdays as well, talking about some NBA stuff, especially for the playoffs. But yeah, the fact that you've got the pull and promo now for that too, just say maybe your player gets ejected or in foul trouble or something like that. I think that's a huge benefit in the NBA. I mean, the downside to it is you need to try and find $4 value, but I think with an over under in there, you can maybe throw in like two or three other legs that are sort of pretty safe, and then maybe just take that risk on one over under, which you can maybe pull out as well. Eagles can beat bad teams and compete with good teams now. Yeah, well, especially on the road too. Hey, like that was a huge thing for me. Like, I mean, Port are rubbish. Let's be honest, especially without Rosie. But the fact that they can now go on the road and have really good wins interstate. And I just think out of nowhere, you're like, shit, how good are some of these kids? I mean, that Job Shanahan was, I think we've probably seen glimpses of it too, but he looks unbelievable. Cooper Duff Tyler looks about as good as ruck forward prospect you can get with him below his knees. There's like a lot of bit of Tim English about him, the way he moves, or Luke Jackson, or some of these types. Pair that with Harley Reid and Dersma, and then the mixture of getting Baker in there and having Duggan and Graham, some of the experience. Yeah, they can absolutely skyrocket back up. And I think you're going to start, as they build back up, you know, the players that are maybe from WA that want to start going home, all of a sudden now, instead of everyone going to Fremantle, all of a sudden West Coast is looking very attractive. They're a big powerhouse club. So yeah, I'd be very excited right now if I was West Coast, because you're sort of starting to come out of the other side of the rebuild as Tassie come in, which is ideal. Not like Carlton and Essendon. Is there anyone on the list that you would leave off? Yeah, well, essentially, I'm probably going to end up trying to find 4 maybe if I can. I'm going to maybe try and leverage the results. I don't really love the idea of throwing in a goal kicker. You know, Logan Morris should really snag a goal at some point. I think he was around $1.20 or 17 or something like that. So if I could mix Morris with maybe Brisbane with maybe a little bit of a head start, that might get you to maybe around like $1.50 or something already there. And then if I can maybe find ideally maybe 3 disposal winners, I'd love to do it that way. So yeah, that means obviously a good chunk. Oh, I'm backwards here on this camera, but a good chunk of these are obviously going to get left off. And that's why I sort of stressed to you guys that these aren't my picks. I haven't even made my mind up just yet. But I actually like all these guys for different reasons. And then by the time I look at the markets tomorrow, I'm sure their odds have either chopped or changed. Some of them might have even dropped back from maybe Jack Chris might have maybe dropped back from 16. Now you can take him at 15. So maybe that comes a bit more attractive. maybe some of these guys shorten to like $1.01 where you're like, okay, well, we're not going to take that anymore. You know what I mean? So I'll just sort of see how this falls tomorrow, and I'll go through these lists and just think, who are the sort of safest, smartest picks we can find. But as we saw last week, it was literally some of the safest, most consistent picks. They were the ones that were letting us down because they had the kicking roles that maybe got taken off them because another player, or like we saw with Tanner Bruin, um, playing through midfield, half back, being one of their main distributors who just got stuck on the bench for half an hour. So, like I said, you can put these things in place. So, yeah, that's sort of where I'm looking at the moment. To be honest, I want to try and steer away from having too many player props just because of the risk with the injuries at the moment, or the soft tissue injuries. And like we said, guys getting stuck on the bench a lot with these one-sided games too. If the doggies are going to win by 100 points, you've really got to think, shit, is Bont and Libber and these type of guys, are they going to get rested at three-quarter time? There's probably a good chance that they do. So that's just something to think about in those games. So that's what I'll be going through on these lists. Is Jared Berry going to tag? Is Dunkley going to go to Dacos? Is that going to affect their disposals? Is Braden Maynard going to get Charlie Cameron, who might take him deep to the goal square? Is Lockie Neal going to get tagged? Is Nick Dacos going to get tagged? These are the things that I start going through, and then I just try and weigh up the risk versus reward against the value as well, and that's sort of where I land. So I really use this list, like I'm describing to you guys, as a real guide. This sort of points me in the right direction, and then I start trying to break this down even safer, and then we sort of end up with sort of 3 or 4 names on the back of that, and it's sort of the process that I go through. So um, even last year there was a clear gap. Yeah, and I think the writing was on the wall a little bit last year for sure, but then we've seen some teams get a lot better, even in terms of Brisbane getting big name recruits and stuff up there. Some of these big clubs getting even stronger. I mean, Geelong just seem to keep getting guys going there every year. Probably end up with Butters next year or something crazy as well. And then, imagine Essendon if Merritt did leave as well. It's blowing out bigger and bigger. Like we said, you can probably see a little bit of a glimpse from like where we said with West Coast, potentially sort of North Melbourne, and maybe even Melbourne. I think as my side, I sit pretty comfortable with where they're at in their rebuild. I think we've made some smart list decisions, and then you can see some teams that have probably gone the other way. Yeah, like I think with Carlton, I mean, getting rid of Curnow, could have they maybe tried to get more draft picks in that deal and sort of started rebuilding the list that way? I mean, is Florent and Haywood really moving the needle? They're having really no impact in that Carlton team at the moment. And then you see what a guy like Jagger Smith's done. So it's like, oh, did Carlton miss a trick of maybe trying to bring in some more draft picks to speed up that process, rather than just some role players essentially? So it's interesting because Melbourne, like I said, went that other way of moving on the superstars, getting some really good draft picks and sort of banking on the draft picks over the last sort of 2, 3, 4 seasons now with Cozzy, Rivers, Langford, these type of guys, and really building their future around that. I'm not sure Carlton's really got that list. You've still got Hewitt and Cripps, and like we said, Florent and Haywood, and these are the types of guys they're trying to build the list around. The Bulldogs quarter line prop is at 18.5 at the highest. Fuck, that's probably not bad, eh? I mean, you just never really know. I mean, they might get a little bit ahead of themselves and they might come out a bit sluggish, or they could come out and kick the first 8 goals, let's be honest. They'll just dominate out of the centre too. I would say with Blackiston and Iraq against Tim English. Quick inside 50 to Darcy or Norton against that Essendon backline, which is probably one of the worst we've seen in a long time. I mean, due to injury and stuff as well, with Ridley and Redmond and some of these guys going down a lot. But, sorry guys, as I always do, I keep saying I've got to jump off pretty quickly, but I actually do. I've got some stuff I need to do. For the NBA specifically. So I'll quickly get through these guys and then I'll jump off. My points bet, Fulham is at 10. Oh, there you go. So they've changed them heaps. Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder how they come with that. Or I don't know, maybe they've given you some other better ones or something too. I don't know. Like I said, I don't really use it at all. At all. That's the only one we've used it for. Um, so I had sort of had nothing in there, which has been easy to track, and I think now I've ended up with like $550 in there. So it's just been a nice bonus for us, something we probably didn't even think of. So um, I don't rate Crows at all. My opinion, Freo will smash them. Yeah, I think the interstate factor is still a real thing, especially coming from Perth. Um, but yeah, look, Freo looked pretty average at times too, and really struggled against Richmond. I mean, they end up having a really good win, but yeah, I wouldn't be counting Adelaide out at home with Dawson coming back. I think Laird coming back in too. I think they had some key players coming back in, so it'll be a good test too. I would love to see, is Freo the real deal? Because I've been pretty big on Freo for the last few years now, and they just seem to sort of underperform each year. So um, it's in Adelaide. Yeah, I thought so. Yeah. I got Fletcher. Oh, you got Fletcher at oh yeah, 16. Sorry, yeah. Quaynor 13. Yeah, which I don't mind. He's very much a lockdown. I think I would just be my only advice maybe on Quaynor, you might have already thought of it anyway, is I feel like he's a really good like for like matchup on a Cam Rayner, who they like to play deep out of the goal square at times as well. So that might be just one, two. Quaynor might get isolated deep playing on Cam Rayner, which might just limit his output a little bit. So it might be a bit of a struggle for him to get to 13. Ashcroft, I really like. Um, Crisp, I really like too. And Brisbane head to head, yeah, I like it, man. I think, yeah, that's kind of a combination I'm looking for. I'll probably still give Brisbane a little bit of a head start if I can, regardless. Just because you never know in sports too. Like I think if Collingwood can sneak a win, it could be like by a goal or something like that in a really close game, like we saw against the Bulldogs. Um, and then yeah, like I said, I guess whoever you have the most confidence in, it's pretty hard to go past a guy like Nick and Josh Dacos, and then say Dane Zorko, who he gets almost 1-2s from every kick in, and they just give him the ball at any opportunity. I mean, same as Josh Dacos and Nick Dacos around the ground. So it's very hard to go past those guys. And I guess that's where the decision comes in. Do you think maybe Fletcher can get to 16, say, quicker than Dacos can get to 24? And then, therefore, who's the safer, smarter pick? Like, who's going to get there quicker? And then that's, I guess, where maybe people's opinions differ slightly. Essendon might be a winless team. Yeah, well, I mean, he was basically a non-factor, and I think you're starting to see. It looks like none of his team were really interested in chopping him out and trying to help him through that tag either. Which is you're just hearing all these type of reports now. So, um, but I mean, look, it's a pretty smart life and business decision. I would have thought for a guy who's committed his whole life to Essendon, he's he's stayed through it thick and thin. Essendon's shit all over their players. Let's be honest, what they put them through the saga and at board level, and they've done nothing really for their players to make them, to get the best out of their career. So Zach Merritt has given everything to that more than anyone probably has at that club. So for him to want to go out and actually have some success and play in some finals, I think is actually a pretty smart life and business decision. Hey, I get one crack at AFL. Let me actually try play some finals and actually have some fun and win some games. I mean, stupid thing for him. I think he signed like a 4-year deal or something before he made that decision. So, um, yeah, it's kind of the world you live in. I think a lot of players these days think they can just sign these long-term deals and then just find a way to get out of it. So that was probably a big mistake on his behalf, putting way too much, probably faith in how good Essendon were going to become when essentially they're getting worse every year. So I don't know how Brad Scott's still got a job. I mean, people keep talking about Michael Voss. I'm like, what are we talking about? Brad Scott was horrendous at North Melbourne. He was a terrible coach, and then went away for a year and worked at the AFL, and then they thought this is going to be the guy to turn around Essendon's fortune. We've got one of the biggest final droughts in football. Let's go get Brad Scott, who was terrible at North Melbourne and hasn't coached for a year. He's the solution to our problem. I mean, what what person's making that decision? This has been part of the problem with Essendon. I think that a lot of their board members have too much power and they're just saying, nah, this is what we want, this is what we want. And whether that's been from recruiting players to obviously to coaches, but yeah, no shit, they're not getting better because your coach wasn't really that good last time at North. North were one of the worst lists in football when he was coaching them. So it's probably no real mistake that Essendon's gotten worse. Sorry if you're Bombers supporters. That might be a little bit. I mean, you guys probably agree, I would imagine. I got a multi for all quarter lines. Um, they are so low. Yeah, like I said, I mean, by all means, got like have some fun with it. I just don't really do too many of them because, like I said, really more. I'm just trying to um provide people with consistent winners. That's what we're looking to do, accumulate winning slips that helps people actually make that little bit extra profit that maybe allows them to go on that extra holiday or something per year and enjoy life a little bit more instead of just, throwing it down the toilet essentially. So I got a multi for that's that one. Yeah, Pullum is max 25. Yeah, and then someone else said 10, so they might have just pulled it back across the board. Maybe they just planned to do it for a month and see how it went for AFL. And then maybe that was their plan. So but yeah, that's all right. I mean, it's still something you can have a little bit of fun with and try and chase that $4 value. Get a nice sort of little 3x on that if you can, or if you want to push it a little bit more. There'll be definitely some games. I mean, if you're going to leverage that promo, it's probably on the doggies where, there might be bloody 5, 6, 7 guys that all have 30 plus disposals and kick a bag of goals. Like, it's going to be very one-sided, that one. Like I said, maybe the only concern is that maybe some of these superstars might actually get rested in that last quarter. So you probably don't want to go too hard on it. I got Maynard, Josh Dacos, Morris, Zorko, and the Lions. Yeah, there you go, man. I think some pretty good choices there, I'd say. I think it will be in Collingwood's backline a lot. Why I went Quainer, could go Lipinski or Maynard. Yeah, I would probably lean towards Maynard. But yeah, like I said, it's just a personal preference. That's why we put this list up there and discuss all these things. Of maybe what's the positives of Maynard that maybe the negative against Lipinski. I mean, Lipinski struggled a little bit at times, but he's such a good elite endurance runner. He plays lots of time on ground. He gets up around the stoppages a lot. Plays off half forward, but he's almost a fifth on baller. Pushes right up to the back line. Plays off a wing. Um, Plays with a real license. Like you see a lot of these Hawthorn sort of guys at the time. At the moment, with Dylan Moore and Connor McDonald and even Watson and Ginnivan, they get so high up the ground and almost become another midfielder. So the fact you can get a guy like that who's going to roam around loose pretty much the whole game, he might be matched up on Zorko. So Lipinski might run up and be another midfielder and Zorko will sit a kick behind the play and play that role. And both teams might be comfortable with that. So, yeah, look, he's definitely got the role there. He's got the numbers on the board. I think he ended up having 16 or something in the end last week, which I think we had 13 or something. So, yeah, again, you just sort of weigh that up. Is Lipinski at 11 maybe safer than someone else at 15 or 16? Is he going to get there quicker? And I guess this is where at some point, you've just got to sort of back in your judgment, and then you're sort of hoping for the best from there. Like we said, you can't really control anything after that, so you've sort of got to put in the work, make your decisions, and then sit back and hope that it all goes well. And if it looks like it's struggling a bit, then you've always got that leverage to lever to pull in terms of cashing out, especially if you're using the apps that give you the best opportunity to do so as well. So. I thought Maynard would go try. It could be too, bro. I'm just sort of thinking out loud that I feel like Quainer could be the matchup. I feel like Maynard's done roles on Charlie Cameron before. Yeah, I think Quainer. I think statistically it might have been last year. I think, or was it maybe Iden at GWS? One of the two. I think maybe they're both right up there. I think as some of the best one-on-one players in the competition. But yeah, look, they could both get that match up at times as well. And I mean, we also see Cam Rayner push up pretty high and pinch hit through the midfield at times as well. So yeah, look, they both might rotate it. But yet again, that's why we have these lives, and I love the points that you bring up. We've maybe all got some different thoughts, and that's the idea, that we can all share our different thoughts on here, and at least it just gives you guys something to think about. Maybe it's something that you didn't think of that I've thought of, or vice versa. And then this way, when you're making some decisions tomorrow, it hopefully just helps you make a clear decision. Like I said, a lot of people don't maybe have the time to watch all the games, or they don't really follow it that closely. They don't really know the statistics. That's why I give people the opportunity to sort of jump on here and have these discussions each week, which I encourage people to sort of get on here and ask these questions, and we can go through it, because like I said, it gets so chaotic, especially when you're catering for hundreds and hundreds of people at a time in all different parts of the world, in different countries, in different time zones, and guys are working and some are playing footy. Um, like I said, it really is important to try and get yourself across some of this stuff, so you can really start making some of these decisions comfortably as well. You want to be comfortable. At the end of the day, it's your money, and you're making your own decisions based with your money. We can give you a little bit of guidance and put some things in place, but like I said, I really try and come from the point more of trying to teach these things to people, so they have that ability to make these decisions themselves as well, rather than getting caught out at the time. So Isaac Rankin is due for a good game. Yeah, look, he's such a good player, and I mean, he could have 12 disposals, and sometimes you feel like he was the best on ground. Just the what he does with the ball, a bit like sort of Cozzy Pickett, even a Shea Bolton type. Some of these guys, you're like, shit, they killed it. Maybe they only had 12 or 13 touches, but kicked a couple of goals. And but yeah, I mean, it's going to be tougher for him as he goes through midfield. I think a lot of teams probably isolate with Adelaide. If we can control Rankin, they don't really have too much else in the midfield. I think even Jordan Dawson's not really having too much impact on the game, I wouldn't have thought, for how damaging he can be. Um, so it looks like a pretty clear plan for a lot of teams, especially Geelong. We saw shut down Isaac Rankin. It goes a long way to beating Adelaide. Not sure that'll be the case with Fremantle. I don't know that they're someone who really prioritises any type of run with roll or anything like that. So that'll be interesting to see. It'd be nice to sort of see him and Shea Bolton maybe paired up at times, pinch hitting through the midfield. I'm actually looking at getting Shea Bolton into my super coach as well, so hopefully he can string some more good games together. I will actually jump off though, guys, but I do appreciate everyone jumping on. It was nice to have one of these lives where it's actually a little bit quieter, which is nice. Crows need to move Dawson down back again. Yeah, well, it's hard because he gives him so much stability, and he's kicking, but I guess that money kick in football, right, is having that connection from mid to forward and hitting that inside 50 kick that's that goal assist. Like we see with guys like Lipinski and Brian Myers, who have been the best at it for quite a while now, last couple of seasons, I would say. Statistically, some of the best kicks in football, which I believe is the most important kick in football. Especially as a Melbourne supporter, having watched my team fucking butcher the football year after year, going inside 50, having zero connection between our midfielders and forwards. Just bombing the ball high and long and hoping for the best. It is an absolute premium. If you've got guys with elite foot skills who can make elite decisions under pressure and hit targets, like you see with maybe your Heaney and your Warner and your Gould and these type of midfielders, I don't think Adelaide really has any of them at all. I think Rochelle's got that capability, and I think Rankin's got that capability if they're in the midfield. And I think Dawson's the other one, and he can obviously go forward as well with his height. He looks like a natural forward at times. He's really good overhead. He can stretch midfielders when he pushes full forward, a bit like Bont and these guys. So he's such a weapon, I think, centre and forward a centre, that you kind of lose a bit of that down back as well. I mean, it's nice distributing the ball off half back, but unless you're really setting up goals hitting inside 50, it's probably not getting maximum impact. And especially when you've got guys like Phil Thorpe and Tex and Fogarty down there, if you can move the ball quick and get them one out and have elite skills like Dawson does, I think it's a premium for them. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see though now with Rochelle and maybe Rankin back going through there as well. Do they look to maybe free Dawson up? Yeah, it's a good point. I feel like Collingwood without Moore are doing fine. Not like their backline has fallen apart. Yeah, it's a good point too, and I think it's probably something I've picked up on for a while now. But you hear Craig McRae talk about it a bit as well, that they are such a system-based team. I think I've heard Jack Ginnivan talk about it a little bit too. Why it can be really hard playing as a forward in Collingwood's team at times because you don't really play on natural instinct. It's very much a coached team game plan where you need to be in a certain position on the ground at a certain time to make sure the whole system works. It's a very system based team and everything they do. So yeah, I did hear him talk about it, and that they've done pretty well even over the years. That Darcy Moore's missed a lot of footy. They just, whether it's Frampton or whoever it is, that maybe they're not the biggest name on paper, but they all just do their role within that system. And yeah, they've been able to handle it fine. I'm not sure he's the player he once was anyway, Darcy Moore. Um, but look, Howe's been really good for him too. So I mean, having him back is huge as well. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's going to be a huge part of the game too. I think with Morris down there and Oscar Allen. Um, they're still probably one of the most dangerous forward lines when you're talking about those two as the keys. But I mean, guys like Zach Bailey and Charlie Cameron and Cam Rayner, they're so explosive and so hard to match up one on one. Those guys, so it's super dangerous. So it'll be interesting to see. Curtin back, swap him for Dawson, move him back fast forward. Yeah, well, that's probably part of the problem too, right? That Dan Curtin's out injured as well. So, I mean, he's such a good player. Talk about like versatile players that can do anything. I mean, yeah, he could be that sort of one in a generation type guy. For how big he is, he can genuinely play wing, midfield, intercept defender. He can play it full forward. So probably missing that versatility as well. But yeah, I do like the fact that they've made that move with Rochelle. I think they were really lacking some sort of speed and polish and a bit of X factor, which him and Rankin both bring. But the problem is now you probably lose a little bit of that creativity and sort of X factor forward as setup. I'm sure they were probably hoping that with an Archie who's out injured now too. So that was maybe part of the thing, we'll bring in Archie and we can free up Rochelle through the midfield. So now that's changed a bit as well. So like I said, it's been a pretty chaotic start to the season with all these new bench rules, guys sitting on the bench for a long amounts of time. Um, some of the best players too, like falling down with injuries and stuff like that. Um, um, not like comparing losing Andrews, Brisbane will be lost a bit, I think. Uh yeah, but I mean, look, they had a really good win in Melbourne, as we saw against St Kilda, who's not a bad side by any stretch. So I think he's probably one of the hardest players to replace in football. I mean, for what he brings to that team, as a leader and the quality of player that he is, the intercept game, everything. But yeah, look, I think we've seen that they're more than capable. It's going to be interesting too with Darcy Cameron how much of an impact he can have, because if they were just playing the one ruck and we're sort of just going in with sort of memory, um, and McStay, I think Brisbane could have covered that. It'll be interesting to see if they do rest one of those ruckmen forward or whether they come off the bench. That might stretch them at times. But it could also open the door for a lot of Brisbane's running defenders if they go too top heavy. That might sort of severely hurt Collingwood on the way out, as we saw at times with Mason Cox and some of these guys. So I'll get through this last one, guys, and then I do have to jump off. Still got so much stuff I got to do. Not only for this, but for some other stuff as well. But I appreciate everyone jumping on, guys. It was actually really nice to do one of these lives on YouTube, where it's a bit more quieter, to be able to really have a good discussion around some of this. We've got a little bit more flexibility to talk about a few more things on here as well. So, um, are you being offered a bonus bet for tomorrow night's game? I don't have one. I honestly haven't looked just yet, bro, but I can probably tell you. Sometimes with that, it can be a timing thing. Like if you've already used a couple in the day or whatever, you only get X amount per day, I think. Um, so you might see it maybe pop up tomorrow. I don't know. Um, I'll just have to. Yeah, if it's over 2 as per normal, it should give you a return feature. Yeah, but that might have just been that you've already used some today, bro. So you might just have to have a look into that, whether you've already used yours or maybe there's a specific reason for that. Oh, sorry, guys. Let me just see. Can you guys maybe just validate this too? I mean, it would actually be good if some of you guys who follow me and stuff on here, if you guys can actually just take a photo of this as well. We've actually got this same person now on multiple accounts. It's going through the fraud team on TikTok because making up lies like that and yeah, saying some of this stuff that's already out on the internet and leaving all the evidence behind for everyone to see. Yeah, some people have gone and found themselves in real trouble now. So we're just documenting it all. Um, so yeah, it'd be good actually if you, because people like this obviously that go around saying that I'm a fraud and a scam. You just cannot be saying that stuff. Obviously, if you're just making it up too, and this is why I do a group too, and have had so many clients over the years that come back. Obviously, we've got so many people at the moment. I mean, there's a bunch of you guys in here right now that are in my group. We've got our results literally there. Like, we can't be more transparent exactly what we've did. We've discussed everything from top to bottom, how we went about it over the weekend. So, yeah, like I said, this is why we do these lives, why we put these disclaimers saying these are not our picks. This is for content purposes only. But then you see people like this that go around and actually say, oh, but he picked this and he picked that and he lied and he said this. And you can literally even see where we put disclaimers saying these aren't our picks. So um, I would actually much appreciate it if you guys could even just take a photo of that as well, just so I can share it. Because yeah, it is sort of being dealt with at the moment. So I just had a meeting today actually with a brand new legal team and stuff that are dealing with it that handle this exact stuff as well. So, but I appreciate you handing us more of this evidence as well, bro. So, thank you. I mean, I love the fact that you spend so much time worrying about me in your life. But we're just out here trying to have some fun, bro, and following sports. So, um, see, even people like they've obviously been on my lives and now they think they know me. Um, your Dubai, you got no idea. Yeah, exactly, bro. Um, your Dubai base offshore promoting it. That's not even true. That doesn't even make sense. Like, see, like you can see how much these comments don't make sense. They jump from one thing to another. Then he's picked out that Lipinski pays $1.10. Yeah, like they do, but this is how, like, when you build multis and accumulate these things together, that's how we've consistently got $2 odds, $4 odds, and how we've amassed 68 units, and everyone in our group comes on these lives every week and validates everything we're doing, and we're sharing the slips along the way. We're discussing them live on air for everyone. So they're all $1.05. Does someone want to correct this guy? Because you can see here, they're all $1.05. All these goal kickers are way higher than $1.05. Both the results are way higher than $1.05. Like there might be maybe one or two on here, but even if that is the case, how is that a scam? Like that's what we're discussing, and this is why you use these picks and build them into multis to accumulate the value. Like this is stuff we're actually explaining in detail on here. So, um, how is it misleading by me sitting here for hours having a discussion with people exactly what we did over the weekend, how we went about it, and what we're gonna do tomorrow as well? Do you know what I mean? Like it actually makes zero sense what you're saying. You said not a multi. All we ever do is multis, bro. Like, do you see how you couldn't be more wrong? I mean, you guys in the chat can validate this who have been sitting here for 2 hours now. All I ever do is multis. What are you talking about, bro? When did I say not multi? No one has ever said that ever. Anyone that knows me or has followed me that is in my group knows pretty much everything we do is multis. We don't do single bets because they don't pay enough. So, like, you're just contradicting yourself. Like, you're just lying so much. Um, no one ever said not multis. All we ever do is multis, bro. Like, I don't know where you're getting this stuff from. It's like you've just painted this picture in your own head that what you're saying is actually true. It couldn't be further from the truth. And everyone on here knows it. So it's just very bizarre. Um, content purposes, it says, yes, you green ticked these the other week and they not multis. Yeah, because we ticked and said, hey guys, this is what we discussed on our live. These are all the things that we discussed. That's exactly what we say. And you can go and watch them where we said, hey guys, we shared all this live last night. These were all the things that we discussed. No one ever said that they weren't multis. All we ever do is multis. Like, it's so bizarre. See what you're saying? Yeah, exactly, bro. So yeah, it's crazy, man. These are the type of people, like, they've got 7 different fake accounts going on the go. You know what I mean? Like, that's like how much time they got on their hands and stuff. So it's, I mean, this is all ideal what we want anyway. When you start talking about harassment and people lying and making these claims, um, See, this is someone saying because I put a green tick on something that literally says this is content purposes only. How can I be claiming these are winnings when I've literally said, hey guys, these aren't my picks? How can I claim that I won on these picks by simply green ticking? Like, if we sit here tomorrow and I put green ticks next to these, that just means, hey guys, this is the information we discussed last night and these were actually correct. All this stuff we spoke about was correct. But at the same time, we clearly stated that these are not our picks. This is content purposes only. Like, it cannot be more clear and more transparent to everyone. We are on here having some fun talking about football. We are not giving any financial advice. These are not our picks. We haven't made our picks yet. And it's purely for content purposes only. And everyone here understands that clearly because it is written in English right here for everyone to read. So the fact of what you're saying, it really doesn't even make sense. Um, Sydney win 40-49. Yeah, exactly, bro. And if you were on that live, we spoke about that and we explained it at length. Because people said that, oh, why'd you tick that? And I said, well, that was really to give you guys a gauge, just like I have here with, say, Brisbane Lions to win. I might not be picking that, but we sat there for 5 hours and said, when people said, what do you think Sydney win by? I said, it probably falls between this margin, but I'm very strong that Sydney win by 40 plus. So when they go out and win by 40 plus, and I sat there for 5 hours explaining why they win by 40 plus, yeah, I think I've got every right to tick Sydney where it's over 40. And yes, it was in between 59, and that was sort of my gut feel. But the fact was, we predicted Sydney to win by 40 plus, and the fact that you're still talking about something from weeks ago and like a green tick, like, why are you obsessing over something that clearly says it's only content purposes only? I mean, it borders on, like, just don't buy his picks. Yeah, like, this is the crazy stuff, man. But this is the sort of mentality out of people. Imagine being so obsessed with somebody you spend your whole life creating pages and like give up your time to watch them and follow them and pretend you know everything about them. Like, this is stuff you see on the news about, like, stalkers and stuff. Like, it's kind of crazy. But, and I mean, the fact is that they leave a paper trail with all the information spread across the internet. um it's kind of crazy. So um see, again, so he said $1.05 isn't value, it's fraud. Like, how is $1.05 fraud? Like, if we're putting it up here and saying, yeah guys, this is $1.05, that's being transparent. We're literally putting it up here and discussing. We've been sitting here for 2 hours now saying every single one of these picks, this is probably what they're worth, and you're probably going to have to multi 2, 3, or 4 together. And this is how you guys are going to build a multi. You might pick the result, you might pinch a goal kicker, you might mix it in with some disposal winners. Like, why are you so obsessed with the value of a pick? And then you've said you're your duplicate. That doesn't even make sense. And you don't know that. You're not in our group. You can't prove that. You've got no facts at all. Again, you're just making statements that aren't true that we can prove. I can go on my statement at any given time, screenshot it, and use it as evidence to disprove everything that you're saying. So, um, no, you advertise it as a sales pitch. No, I didn't. And what constitute as a sales pitch? By me saying, hey guys, congrats to everyone that was on our live last night and discussing all these things. If I sat there and discussed that Sydney was going to win by 40 plus and I felt the need to tick it because I said for 5 hours straight that Sydney was going to win by 40 plus. And then when we jumped on and someone said, oh, bro, how come you've got that tick like you had that? And I said, yeah, that was because that was my gut feel. You guys wanted to know where did I think it lied. I said, I think it would end up being a goal or two either way of that. But, you know, we were bang on to say Sydney will win by 40 plus. So we ticked it. So you could have just come on and asked, hey, man, why does that have a tick? Maybe I misunderstood. And I would have simply explained to you. But instead now you've sort of gone down this path, you know what I mean? It's like you're pretending that you know everything but you actually don't, and none of this makes sense. um you just keep saying everything's fraud, but yet you're on the internet saying whatever you want. Yet I'm the one on live being transparent, answering all these questions, talking through it with everyone for hours on end. So um um again, see, here's another one that's not true. You're promoting constant winners, no balance. Again, this is just another one. So we obviously can't. This is why we're doing this one on YouTube too. If I was to put a screenshot and say, "Hey guys, we put $200 on to win 500," it would get shut down, and they would say that is promoting gambling. We don't do that. We can show you guys, "Hey guys, we had winning picks, and here's our winning slip." We cannot show dollar values because that's just a rule on. That's just a policy. Again, we can just prove that straight away. So you don't know that. You don't know any of this. You're just making up these things. So that's fine. Sorry, guys. Normally we just don't go through this on here, but like I said, it is actually great for me when people just make these false claims. And I mean, this will all obviously be saved as well. That I can now just like hand over as well, because then I can just actually go through and go, yep, this is a lie, this is a lie, this is a lie. We can disprove all of this, and this is on multiple platforms now, on multiple fake names. That this person's done it and violated it. So, um, you ain't regulated. Yeah, I'm not a sports book. I don't take any money from people. All people just ask. I just provide advice. That's all I do. I'm just consulting. People pay a service for my advice. That's simply all that I'm doing. You don't need to be regulated to give advice to people. And then you've said I can't do anything. And then you've also said, where's your responsible gambling messages? Um, Me saying that this is not picks is being very clear. We are simply just on here having some fun talking about sport purely for content purposes only. Just see, like you're just reaching at all these things. Um, we've already had this discussion with WAP. They've already screened. They've already got all this documented evidence against all this stuff. So it's so funny, all of this. Um, but you must have a lot of time on your hands, man. You've just jumped on twice tonight on two different accounts. Like you just must have them ready to go, hey? Like, so there you go, guys. I normally don't sort of give too much air to people like that, but that kind of just gives you guys a bit of a look at what you deal with in this space too, right? Um, like we can be sitting on here having fun. I can be giving up my time having these discussions, trying to help people go out and have some success tomorrow. And yet these are the type of people that are out there in the world. Like you guys have read what they've said to say, I'm not regulated and I'm talking about gambling and I don't have a responsibly gambling message. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like, this is why we have all this stuff the way that it is. It's actually so crazy. Was that, yeah, dude, the same guy. And then he's made like a TikTok account under another name where he's actually put my face and name and said that I'm a scammer, I'm a fraud. Um, yeah, like this guy, this will go through this. It's already gone through it'll go through TikTok's fraud team as well as Meta. It'll probably, obviously, it'll now go through YouTube as well. And it'll probably end up going to the police, to be honest, because that's like borderline psychopath stalker type behavior, you know what I mean? So when you're just devoting every second of your life to like harass someone, make up lies, like you guys can read it. That's why it was sort of funny to see it when you're like, a lot of this stuff, it doesn't even make sense. Do you know what I mean? So, this is how people get so emotional over like a green tick on a video on these lives that we discuss. But, like I said, it's why it's such a credit to you. A lot of you guys. I mean, we get so many people on these lives that obviously understand what we're doing and make it sort of very clear that, hey, this is just the very early stage. We're discussing some options for the footy or whatever, just trying to give you guys some advice. And then we also make it very clear, like this guy's literally put up screenshots of lives, trying to talk negative about it, but then yet in the photo you can see like there's big warning signs that says, this is strictly content only, this is not financial advice. And then he's gone around and said like, this guy's a scammer, he's giving gambling advice and he's not regulated. Like, it's like, where are you even getting this from? It doesn't even make sense. So, yeah, I mean, this is what sort of people's out there, you know. I mean, like I said, it's kind of crazy to me, but yeah, this is sort of what comes with this space. So you guys probably just got a bit of an insight. I mean, everyone probably thinks it's just so easy to do this and everyone wants to do it these days, but this is the sort of stuff that you're going to deal with along the way as well. Which, like I said, I just have a team and a system bulletproof in place, you know, for all this stuff. Because you just can't go around saying it, you know, stuff like that. So, and YouTube take this stuff sort of very, very seriously as well. So, yeah, it'll all get dealt with anyway. So, it's sort of just a shame, you know, and that's why we try and make it clear, because this is what happens. People pop through for like a couple of minutes and they take a screenshot and then they come back on the next live and said, oh, but you said that you know, all these, you mentioned like 6 goal kickers and all these disposal winners. It's like, yeah, but we also sat there for 3 hours and explained maybe why some of them aren't a good pick, or why some of them are up here for value, or you know, maybe, you know, it's specifically like this. We might have the result up there twice for completely different reasons. You're probably not going to go take Brisbane head to head and also take them for plus 20.5, you know. So this guy can't have a life, way too much time. Yeah, bro, like literally, like this is what's sort of crazy to me too, that people have this opinion when I can do. I mean, you guys have probably seen how many lives of these we've done now for years and years, and how many people we've helped. Like, there was literally one of the guys that come through who was through the NFL season as well, who was like, yeah, I won like 12K through the NFL, we absolutely killed it, just validating everything we were talking about. And then this, I think it was this same guy that went out and said, oh nah, Brett gets all his mates to come on live, and he gets certain guys of his mates are all in his platform, and they like conspire, and they're the only ones that come on the live, and you can't trust those guys because they're all his friends. I'm like, we've got nearly 1,000 people in our server. You reckon they're all my friends? They're all what, like paid actors who spend their time coming on my live to validate what I'm saying? Like, people just can't wrap their head around. Do you know what I mean? It's like, just because they don't understand something, like you could say, this guy said the word fraud 5 different times because I'm not regulated and because I put a green tick on a picture. You know what I mean? Like, that's his understanding of what the word means. This is sort of where it's so crazy, but yeah, like I said, it's unfortunate, but As we talk about a lot, this is the difference between people and their mindset. Like, imagine wasting all this time and energy and coming on these lives when you could actually be joining in and getting some good advice and actually going out and getting some results on the back of it. Instead, you end up wasting all your time creating fake accounts, making empty threats against people, all from behind fake accounts, of course, like real coward type behavior, like most of these sort of people. But yeah, you guys probably get a pretty good glimpse of it now. It's sort of crazy, but like I say to a lot of young guys who sort of asked me before and that they want to start out and stuff doing it, I said just be prepared for that too. That if you start doing good at anything and helping people and you're having fun on lives, it's just going to trigger certain type of people that hate seeing other people happy. They hate seeing other people win. It just frustrates them so much because they can't understand it. Yeah, you know what I mean? And it shows a real incompetence to even understand what they're talking about. You know what I mean? Like, when people think they know everything, like saying you're not regulated to come on the internet and talk sport and share some advice for people for some fun. It's like tens of thousands of people are doing this every single day. Yeah, it really is crazy, but yeah, I won't bore you guys with it anyway, because it's like I said, I do actually have to jump off, but yeah, I'm actually kind of glad that sort of happened too, because then you guys really sort of see it, and it probably paints an even better picture, I guess, in terms of why I do these lives. So when people go around saying stuff like this, or they fake wins and they're like, you were saying something about that I have like multiple slips in case one loses. It's like, how can I be pretending results when you've got nearly 1,000 people through your server, and hundreds of members at each time. Everyone knows exactly what we did, which games we won, which games we had to cash out, which games we doubled down on. Like, it's not very hard for me to prove that. Do you know what I mean? Because we keep all the screenshots and everything in our Discord is documented as well, and through WOP as well. So it. The sort of sad part is, though, like with guys like this, they've now gone and ruined it. Like, they'll never be able to join one of those platforms again now, because like I work with WOP on a close basis, and have, I can reach out to people directly, who deal with all this sort of stuff with their fraud teams and stuff like this. And it's like $1 billion company or whatever who take this stuff very, very seriously. So, yeah, it is kind of, it is unfortunate, because I've even seen guys go to the extent of like threatening to like report it to the bank, which is it blows back on WOP then, because they're the processors. So people end up getting themselves falsifying evidence and lying and claiming bank fraud when it's just a complete lie, and end up getting themselves in really, really big trouble with $1 billion company who have bulletproof policies in place. Like, it's what I try to explain to these people too. If you're going to go join a platform, there is policies in place. We have some simple policies in place too. It's like just common courtesy and stuff as well in our group chats. It's like, if you're going to come in, this is a little bonus. People come in to for the advice and to the picks. Like, you get the group chat to sort of mingle with other people, learn, ask questions, and get better at this stuff. Unfortunately, some people think it's like their own personal group chat where they can just whinge and complain and sook, and then they go, oh yeah, but I got removed. It's like, yeah, because you went against our policies, you're filling it with rubbish, it was not helping anybody. Why would we accept that in a group where we're trying to help people get better? Why would we want our group filled with absolute nonsense that helps no one? It's just smart business practice to keep a nice, clear, clean group chat so people can actually ask good questions and receive good advice in return. So we have all these systems in place, have done for years. So does WOP. And this is why it's kind of funny, like when people go on tirades like this and literally just outlay it for everyone, so we can all see it. So yeah, it's kind of crazy, man, but everyone else on these lives love it, and they're always on. Yeah, well, that's why I wanted to kind of do it on here too, bro. As you've probably seen, people that actually really want to be on here make the effort to jump over to YouTube too. Like I said, it's so easy for people just on TikTok and stuff as well. So but I mean, again, that guy's now just gone and incriminated himself on another platform on two separate accounts. So, um, yeah, like I said, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is, As they say, you play stupid games, you're going to probably win stupid prizes in the end. So, um, yeah, it's unfortunate, but you guys, it probably just gives a bit of context now of why I put these things there as well, because like I said, I really want people to benefit from this and just understand what we're doing. Anyone's got the right to jump on social media and share some advice and have some fun. At the same time, making it very clear what we are doing and what we're not doing and why we're doing it. So, yeah, it is very unfortunate, but um, like I said, you guys can probably tell what sort of results these people get, not only in sports, but probably in life overall, which is probably the saddest part. So, I said, yeah, I mean, yeah, like it is. I mean, and I don't know who these people are too, I'd hate it to be like some sort of young guy and then they go and make stupid mistakes like this and don't really probably realize what consequences come with it. And then, like I said, unfortunately, then they're not going to be able to ever go on WOP or Discord again. Um, they won't be allowed on any of these social media platforms. All of a sudden they've got charges on them because they're harassing people, stalking people, falsifying evidence, yeah, making false claims against companies or whatever they're doing. So it is very, very unfortunate, but as you guys would have even seen then, I still at least tried to take the opportunity to sit there and explain and go through some of them. But even for every rational answer I was trying to give them, you can see how much they pivot to the next thing. Oh, but what about this? Okay, we'll disprove that. Well, what about this? What about this? What about this? So, um, yeah, it was. I'm sort of glad in a way that sort of happened on there because I mean this gets recorded as well. So, but I do have to jump off, guys. But I appreciate all you guys. Like I said, that is sort of one out of, as you guys will see, we have thousands and thousands of people that come through these lives every week, and that's like once every couple of months or something you have to deal with sort of people like that, which is unfortunate. But it also probably means you're doing something pretty right in life where people become obsessed with you and what you're doing in your life, at the same time as well. So I'm leaning towards Brisbane to win by 2 goals. Is the line minus 11.5? I thought it was actually closer to like 20. I just sort of threw it out there, let's say around 17 points. Which is funny because it seems to be this is what's triggered this person to start with. So that would be like me, say, throwing up there tonight, hey guys, I think Brisbane's going to win by 17 points. And then, say, putting a green tick next to Brisbane winning, and then people saying, oh, but you said 17 points. It's like, come on, bro. We're allowed to share our opinion and discuss it. If you still describe the winning team and how much they're going to win by, and they go a little bit over, well, then you've still got a winning tip or a winning pick, unless you actually go and place that yourself, which, like I said, we're not doing with any of this just yet, or we haven't. So, outline, yeah. What game? What game you win on in round 3? Well, we had quite a few in the end because obviously anytime you're cashing out and making profit, that's a winner. So we probably had 3 games where we would have ended up losing, which were critical. So we end up cashing out and making profit. So if you're at a really good position, you get handed a gift, which is profit on a silver platter, and you decide not to take it. Unfortunately, you've got to live with those decisions. And like I said, that's why we're trying to put emphasis on these lives and having these discussions to help people get to that point. But if you don't want to ask the questions, you don't want to do the lives, you don't want to get better, then unfortunately you're maybe not going to get the results as others that are here having these discussions. So, yeah, that was it the earlier Sunday game. So we would have ended up sweating out probably, which would have been a narrow loss. I think it was the West Coast game, but like I literally said in our group, hey guys, you're probably sitting on about, I think it was about 2.5 units profit now if you were to cash out at 3/4 time. This is up to the individual. You can, and I literally went to the extent of saying you can basically take that out, store it, flip it over onto the Melbourne Carlton game to double down if you're more confident on that game to give yourself a better chance of winning, which is what a lot of us did. So that was very easy for me. We just sort of minimized it on a couple of games. The North game, I think I lost maybe about $15 or something. It was like a cash out instantly, probably a few minutes into the game when we saw the merit tag. We saw Caleb Daniel out of play. So I just pulled the trigger straight away because, like I said, we'd fallen behind to that point. So it was very crucial for me. Hey, if we can minimize any damages so we don't fall too far behind, if we can take some little profits along the way, that way we could get to Sunday and have the opportunity where we might only be, whether it's sort of 4, 5, 6, 7 units behind, which is very doable when you've already made 64 units, I think it was, going into that game. So for me to risk, I think it was end up like 10 on the last one by the time I doubled down. And then we missed, so I lost one on the bonus we had on that as well. So it was to come away with 9 profits. So I think I was behind by about 5.5 going into the last game. And then I won 9 units and ended up making 3.5 or whatever it was, as you guys can see, like I said, as we document all of it. So, yeah, that's sort of how we went about it. And I can't remember which other one was. Yeah, I think it was 2 we had to do the same on, which were really crucial to minimize some damage, to come out ahead and then minimize the damage on the North game. So, like I said, it was a really tricky round, and I knew it would have probably been really hard and really messy, but I think where people need to look at it from my point of view, it's like you can only do so much when you've got hundreds of people. I'm making a live decision. From me making that decision, clicking that button, writing it in a description, posting it in the group, and then everybody has to automatically get the notification within seconds and then open their phone. That's probably a 3, 4, 5 minute process if people have their phone in their hand. You could be in the toilet, and by the time you come back, the cash out's disappeared, So this is what I'm trying to explain to people. You don't want to have to rely on cashing out, but I'd much rather have the discussion here on a Wednesday night. So come 3/4 time tomorrow night, you guys are all probably like, hey, let me have a look at the cash out and let me see if it's a smart decision to maybe cash out or not. And if you just start doing that on every single game now, that's what we talk about in learning a lesson. That's going to actually help you get better. And, this is why people go to systems or platforms like this to take advice and to get better. That's essentially what we're trying to do. So, we keep getting stuck on here as well, guys, but I do think some of this stuff is really important. So, I might just end up having to do a bit of an all-nighter again with the time difference and the stuff that I'm doing in America too. So, thoughts on Richmond plus 28.5 against Port at the G? I honestly haven't looked into it too much in perfect honesty, bro. Top of my head, I would say absolutely, bro. I think Richmond probably win that game. I'd be pretty confident on Richmond in that. Keeping in mind, I haven't looked at who's actually playing or whatnot just yet, which I never really do until we need to. But, yeah, absolutely, bro. I think we see if Port can't win at home against West Coast, Richmond's been really good. I thought even against Fremantle, what they end up getting belted by a bit, but shit, they were in that game for a long, long period of time. So, yeah, I think they can absolutely win that game. And if you want to give them a nice, juicy head start, I think that is very smart, bro. You might even want to pair something like that with maybe Brisbane with a 20-point head start, instead of maybe trying to do it all in one game. Or maybe you can find 3 or 4 games like that with teams that you feel really comfortable with. Give them a little bit of a head start as a bit of a safety net, and maybe that's a way you want to do it so you avoid some of the injuries and the player props and the bench minute. It's something I'm considering more and more. Maybe on a Saturday too, can we take a step back and just try and find 2 or 3 results to focus in on and maybe try and minimize the amount of players we're doing? Because right now the injury risk is very high and the bench minutes is very high. Like I said, by me even having this discussion, I want people to start thinking about this. So just because maybe we end up going with some results, some disposals, I want people to still be like, well, shit, Brett did actually, it makes a lot of sense when he says maybe we can maybe look at some of the results. So maybe some other guys start looking more at the results on the back of these lives as well. And that's the idea. We have these discussions on here. It gives you guys something to think about, and then you can go and implement them. Because like I said, at the end of the day, it's your decisions, it's your money, you're accountable for what you're doing. We can sort of give some advice, like I try and explain to some of these people that, say we need to be regulated and it's illegal and blah, 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 it's fraud. It is complete nonsense. We can sort of, or I can sort of share my thoughts and what I think and what I'm going to do, and we can have a plan in place. But like I said, it can also be crucial that people start understanding this and take that bit of responsibility to maybe make some of these key decisions, whether that's on cash outs, or I might be trying to hit this $2 market specifically to trigger some of these features, just because I think that's a nice safety net for my clients to have. But you might just want to make it even safer and say, look, I don't need to do that for any clients. I'm pretty happy just accepting $1.80, and I'll just maybe put an extra unit on it than Brett has. So you're actually going to make it even safer and smarter and maybe change it slightly. So do you know what I mean? You're still leveraging my advice. You're using the same sort of system, but you've just decided that you might even make it even a little bit even safer and smarter. And that's what we're encouraging people to do. We can put some information there. We can put some guidelines in place, but we also want to have these conversations where people start to learn these things behind it. And like I said, more maybe the business side of things. And $1.60 or $1.70 is a great return on investment for 2 hours work, tax free, at home on your couch, So what's your pick? Haven't done any just yet, bro. I'll be locking mine in probably sort of mid-morning, sort of around lunchtime-ish. I'd love to just sit down again tomorrow, have a look at once the markets sort of settle, and it'll probably be something from on this list. Probably definitely one of these names. Now, a guy might drop back from 15 to 14 or something. That's what I'm hoping for. Or the value might change a little bit for maybe an incentive for someone else. We might hear some news that maybe there's going to be a late out or something. You know what I mean? I'm just sort of waiting for these couple of other things, and I'll be basically working back off this list. Do I trust Dacos to get to 24 before maybe Lipinski gets to 11 plus? And maybe they're the same value. What's the safest, smarter pick? And a lot of the time we can do so much right on here, and you end up maybe going with one or the other, and maybe all these other 10 come through, and maybe the one you end up going with is the unlucky one where you get injured or something like that. But that's the whole point of having these discussions as well, giving you guys multiple different options, discussing maybe the pros and cons, and then letting you guys go out and make your own mind up on the back of these. So, cleaned up with the cats and pies last week. Yeah, there you go, man. It's really good. It is something that I'm giving some real thought to. Like I said, especially on Saturdays when there's going to be full rounds. Like I said, this is more, like I said, it's not so much about me and what I'm doing these days. It's more trying to cater for people, within the platform, right? So if I understand, like I've got a whole bunch of guys who work Saturdays and play football Saturday, it's probably going to be very hard for them to try and leverage these promos where you have to pull out on time, or for them to try and cash out. So can I maybe implement some other stuff where it's just like, hey guys, just maybe 2 or 3 results, multi these in together. If you don't have the time to sit down and do this, like some of us are going to have, maybe this is an alternative that you need to take. But also, like I said, this is upon responsibility for people. So if you're going to go and take a promo that we're doing, knowing full well that you're going to miss the game and you're going to be at work, it's like you can't blame other people if you didn't pull out on time for the promo because you were busy. Do you know what I mean? It's like, how do we don't know that. We don't know what people's circumstances are. So like I stressed to a lot of people, we can try and put all these things in place and outlay some guidelines, and then people really need to sort of have that flexibility and be able to run with it and say, shit, that doesn't really apply to me because I'm going to be busy. I do like these later games. I might just skip these couple of day games because I'm going to miss out on these promos, or I won't have the time to cash out. Let me just jump on the later games because that's the smartest decision for me. That's when I actually get to sit down and watch the game. You know what I mean? That's an individual decision that people need to make. So it's super important, and these are the things that I love to talk about on here. Hoping that the more we talk about these, by the time Thursday comes around, or when we're crazy busy game after game after game on the Saturday, we don't have to discuss all this stuff. It's already second nature to everyone. So that's why I'm sort of trying to build around sort of Wednesday nights as well, because it allows us to sort of discuss what happened last week, maybe what we learnt from that, and what we're going to do going into next week, and how we can maybe implement some change and stuff going into next week. So yo, what's up guys? What's up? Drop punting become popular with high task. That seems a bit spamish. But what's up anyway? If you do have anything final, guys, quickly get them in. I do really have to jump off. So if there's nothing else, guys, I will be jumping off. What's up? Not much, bro. We just had a really good live for being a few hours in the end, so credit to everyone yet again. Had some fun, talked some footy. Hopefully you guys took some value from this. Whether we continue to do it on here, I would love to do it. The idea why I've set this system up like this is because we can actually share it on TikTok as well, but what I find is TikTok doesn't like this streaming so much on a wide screen from a PC. It much rather doing it on like a handheld device. It just gets a bit better of a reach, so I really prefer doing these, but you get so much better reach doing it the other way. So yeah, it's a bit of a tricky one. So it might be one of these ones maybe every now and again we do on here, so we can specifically go into a little bit more depth. Like I said, maybe more around business side of things and some numbers to try and help you guys out on those sorts of things. And then we can probably keep it a bit more generic and stuff like that on some of these other platforms. So will you be going live for the Bulldogs? Nah, this will probably be it, bro. This is normally, if I get time, like sometimes I try and jump on straight after the game. You know, just because it's sort of relevant, and I can pop on for like half an hour, you know, maybe straight away after tomorrow night's game, and we can sit here and sort of discuss, wow, you know, a lot of that stuff that we spoke about come true, or maybe where we missed and what we need to change or whatever it is. I think that can be valuable at times, but like I said, I'm actually extremely busy at the moment. I'm about to start setting up some really cool stuff with the NBA. We're doing, I've already set up a few collabs and going to spend some time in America later this year for the NFL, whether that's the NFL game in Australia. So I've got a lot of that stuff that I'm doing at the moment. Sort of all this stuff behind the scenes that probably not many people see. So this is what I sort of cram into the days when there's no footy. As much as we'd be loving to do like some daily NBA and stuff right now, it does take a lot of time and effort and stuff to put some of this stuff in place that we're doing as well. Which is going to end up being better for anyone anyway. So, yeah, I'll be flat out with all of that stuff. So I do try and put a little bit of time together, like I said, and people start getting to know. It's kind of sort of from 7:30 p.m. on Wednesday nights, and what we do is discuss some stuff for the Thursday night game, as well as a little bit of last week, and maybe touch on some other games. It's just a really good time slot to do it. So right now, that's sort of what I try and lock in, and then if I get some extra time on top of that, you might see me throw up a random video where I jump on and do it. So, yeah, that's pretty much just how it works at the moment, man. So, all right, guys, I think I will actually finally jump off now. Appreciate you guys coming on. For everyone in our group, well, we've already sort of updated it. Any one of you guys can join. There's no lock-ins or anything like that either. We make it super flexible for anyone that wants to come and check it out. We did actually have a free channel open for the first, well, until like the last couple of days or whatever, when that sort of closed down. So we did, we were giving away sort of one play each week as well, and helping some people through. But like I said, yet again, with unfortunately some of the stuff you guys might have seen here tonight. This way, I always point to the wrong way here. Unfortunately, all that did as well was just attract a whole bunch of people in terms of like scammers and stuff too, and sending people DMs and trying to send them towards some sort of shady sort of link on Telegram or something. So there was just really no benefit for us as much as we were sort of trying to give people somewhat of a trial, I guess, and help them out with some free stuff. It's really just become a real sort of hindrance as well. So we've shut all that down now, and we'll just be focusing on sort of what we're doing purely, as well as these lives as well. And like I said, potentially more and more of these lives as the NBA sort of playoffs come around. We'll be doing exactly this. Obviously, a lot of you guys will probably be busy during the day and maybe don't get the time to research and stuff on the NBA. So we'll do very similar to this in terms of just throwing up some suggestions. We can talk about it. Hopefully you guys take some value from it, and we'll have some fun around it as well. So I appreciate it again, guys. I will catch you all on the next live. which I will update across